French President Emmanuel Macron has won re-election by a substantial margin over his far-right opponent, Marine Le Pen. CBS's Elaine Cobb is in Paris.
There were sighs of relief across France and beyond as it became clear that President Macron had delivered his far-right rival. The outcome was less certain earlier in the day as low turnout raised fears that Le Pen could do well.
Here in the U.S., the Supreme Court will hear arguments in the case of a Washington State football coach who lost his job for praying at the 50-yard line after games. Rachel Leisure heads Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
Multiple parents came forward and said, my students felt pressure to pray to play. My students felt pressure to pray to feel part of the team.
Coach argues his First Amendment rights were violated. New York City firefighters mourning the loss of one of their own. WCBS's Sean Adams is on the scene in Brooklyn.
Mayor Adams broke the news Sunday.
New York City has lost one of its bravest, Timothy Klein.
Klein and fellow firefighters forced their way into a burning home Sunday afternoon. Part of the second-floor ceiling crashed down. Klein was trapped and killed. Fire also claimed a 21-year-old.
Oh, I don't. It was something
Elon
else.
Musk may wind up buying Twitter after all. The Wall Street Journal reports he's in discussions with the platform to try to reach an agreement on his $43 billion.
Is that the only running cut there is? There should
Stewart
be like
got
three
in some
different ones.
political commentary as he picked up the
I was
prestigious Mark
supposed to be
Twain
saved for
Prize
different
for American Humor at the Kennedy Center last night.
It's not the woke police that are going to be an existential threat to comedy. It's not the fresh prince. It's the
Okay,
brown
yeah.
prince.
Ceremony
No.
airs on PBS.
We got a
Essex
5K
is now
giveaway.
38.
But it's not a 5K as in running 3.1 miles. It's a 5K as in $5,000.
CBS Mornings, weekdays on CBS.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary.
Oil keeps going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC accredited investor, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects. The U.S. government needs your investment in oil and is allowing you to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel. Call 800-278-7455. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-278-7455. You'll be calling directly to the home office of Encore Energy. That's 800-278-7455.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Guarantee Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shaw Bills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit ShawBillsTire.com to learn more. Be advised, drivers, the center lane is blocked on I-10 westbound at the Mississippi River Bridge due to an accident. You will experience a little bit of stop-and-go traffic. However, congestion is minimal at this time. But if authorities don't get that cleared up in a hurry, delays will get worse. And that center lane being blocked is affecting I-10 traffic right now. If you're heading into work on I-10, you'll notice a drive time of 23 minutes, Highland Roads in the Mississippi River Bridge. However, I-12 looks really good at the moment. That accident on
Yeah, I
the
think
way
yours
is
are right
not
here.
affecting the traffic there. If you're passing through I-12, you'll notice light volume. We have a current drive time of about 15 minutes, Cuban Roads at the 10-12 split. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawville. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
The humid haze is out there again this morning. Some sun will be around
Oh!
the first half of the day today.
Let's
as
go.
temperatures climb into the mid-80s. This afternoon, a front will be approaching the area from the northwest. Showers will become widespread by dinner time, and your evening commute may be moving a little slower than usual today. Showers and storms could pack a punch with brief periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, and frequent lightning. Any showers will start to clear as the sun goes down tonight. It will be muggy heading into Tuesday with a few leftover showers possible in the morning, and then we'll dry out for the rest of the work week.
Oh.
This is Mornings with Brian Haldane. Who are you?
606 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running to start off this week. Off and running with a big Monday show. Off and running with a full slate of guests for you. We got a lot of ground to cover today, y'all. And we're going to have some fun along the way. First of all, Richard Condon will be by at 6:35 this morning. Can't wait to talk to him. I have no clue where we're going today. Sometimes I have an inkling for that segment, but the whole point of it is just to be as off the cuff as possible. We'll have a Moral Dilemma Monday for you coming your way at 6:52 this morning. In our Medical Monday segment, we're talking autism with Dr. Stephen Felix from Our Lady of the Lake. That's coming up at 7:15. Stephen Wagaspack from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry going to be by at 7:35. Get an update on the legislative session and the goings-on over there. Couldn't help but notice the headline at The Advocate about all is not lost when it comes to the bridge. No, that is not the word-for-word headline. That was my rephrasing of said headline. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. If they're going to be able to pool money from a number of different places to put up a Mississippi River bridge. In our 8 o'clock hour, a couple of bills in front of the legislature that I've they were started a little bit below the radar, but I've stumbled across them and quite intriguing by Franklin Foyle. One we've talked with Senator Foyle about in the past. The other one involves cryptocurrency, and in the way that it's written, could cover a lot more than just that. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll get to that in the 8 o'clock hour. Also, Matt Moscona is going to join us at 8:40 to recap the spring game, which, by the way, did you catch the spring game? Completely different look, completely different vibe. A lot went down. If you saw the score, it's weird. Like, it was, 50-something, 30-something, the final score? But it was based off of a point system that involved the defense scoring points along the way for things like tackles for losses, 3 and outs. You had color zones for stoppages with field goals and whatnot. It was a weird way to score something. So if you looked at the score, it's like, good night. Did they stop anybody? Yeah, they did. They did. It was just the way it was set up. That was it just played out weird that way. Anyway, a lot of highlights from that game. There was a lot to look forward to closing out the spring. Plus, we'll have top stories and trending, the outside in, this day in history. You know how we do it around here as the show wears on. Give me just a second, y'all. I apologize. I'm trying to reboot my computer midway through. The thing locked up like a minute before going on the air. So I've just kind of been without a computer for this opening segment. There we go. Starting things off this morning, I actually wanted to start off by taking a look at the bridge, the new Mississippi River Bridge. This has been a topic that we've kind of touched on a good little bit, and it looked like it ran into just a roadblock last week or week before, as state legislators did not approve the $500 million that the governor wanted to set aside for a new bridge. However, when we had Speaker Pro Tem Tanner McGee on late last week, he kind of spelled out how instead of that one chunk of $500 million, they were going to piecemeal it together from other sources. And it is looking like they are going to get $100 million out of that one, and then another $100 million out of that, and then put the other $400 million back together from different places. The Advocate story says Senate President Paige Cortez, who has voiced concerns about setting aside $500 million with no site selected and an uncertain timeline, made a point about the bridge. He says, at the end of the day, we're going to come to an agreement on it, and we're going to have the Edwards administration involved in it. That was one of the reassuring quotes. We are going to come to an agreement on it. Another one that was in there came from, where was it? It was Jerome Zarang. Zarang was another person who was concerned about not having a specific site for the bridge, concerned about setting aside that much money. He called it squirreling it away, although it is an investment in the future. But Jerome Zerang was also on board with putting the money together from a different spot, different sources. I'm looking forward to talking with Stephen Wagasback about this later on in the show. Also, look at the clock. Okay. Also, this is our last week for the Dreams Come True Radiothon. If you have not yet donated, I implore you. We do this once a year, and once it comes to a close, it's back on the shelf until next year. Dreams Come True grants dreams to local children who are battling life-threatening illnesses, whether it be meeting their favorite celebrity athlete, whether it be a trip to Disney World, a Disney cruise, putting together a fashion show. I've heard dozens of different types of dreams, but they make the dreams come true for the local children battling life-threatening illnesses, and you can help out. There is no amount that is too small that you can donate. There's no amount too large you could donate either, but there's no amount that's too small you could donate, and the money stays local. The money serves children in Louisiana. Check it out at talk1073.com. You'll see the Dreams Come True tab at talk1073.com. Make your donation today. It's going on for the remainder of this week, and then that's it. Then we're done. I can tell you we've unlocked 2 different goals along the way, and the way we do this thing, the way we have it structured is our donations, individual donations, when they hit certain benchmarks, they unlock corporate donations. Like when we got to $1,000, it opened it up for a number of sponsors to kick in $1,000 a piece from their end. When we hit $2,000, boom, rinse, repeat. And it just catapults the amount that can be donated. So it's continuing to go on throughout the remainder of this week, and your help is greatly appreciated at talk1073.com. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk sports. The Pels, Pels looked so good last night. LSU baseball looked good over the weekend. Softball did as well. There's a lot of ground to cover. We're talking about it next on Talk 107.3. Trying to talk while not having my damn TV up. Or trying to talk while not having a computer up. I can't quote people without having the quotes in front of me, and I had the quotes in front of me until I didn't. No, I thought, did I not send you the other ones? How long do I have?
Download the all-new Talk 107.3 mobile app, brought to you by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Listen live, find out what you missed on demand, and even set an alarm to wake up and listen. The Talk 107.3 mobile app is brought to you by Gregory Ricks & Associates.
Hi, this is Rick Morton with the Grove Recovery Center, where we are working to help change lives for people right here in Southeast Louisiana. When it comes to addressing addiction, we're able to offer an atmosphere at our residential campus that brings people peace. Just like me, more than 9% of our staff here at the Grove is also in recovery. We get it. Come learn how you can do it too.
310-2600 for the Grove Recovery Center. Recovery designed for you. 310-2600.
Employers are more motivated than ever to hire good, skilled workers, which means they're also paying more. So there's never been a better time to start your path to a new career and start earning more money than ever. ITI Technical College has been helping place students and graduates in good, high-paying jobs for almost 50 years, right here in Baton Rouge. Enrollment is open right now. To learn more, visit iticollege.edu or stop by 13944 Airline Highway. For a better life, iticollege.edu.
I'm attorney Robert Lucky. If you've been in a wreck or have suffered any personal injury, call 866-9-LUCKY-1 today.
Paid not claimed. Announcer
Firestone tires. Visit ShopBillsTire.com to learn more. There was an earlier accident I-10 westbound on the Mississippi River Bridge that had that center lane blocked. That accident has been cleared and all lanes are now open.
All right. I thought that sent. All right. Eric, good morning. Renee, good morning. Tiffany, Byron, good morning. Good morning. We'll start with the LSU base. You got them all downloaded? Okay, then we can start with the Pelicans. We're gonna go Ingram 1, Ingram 2, then Green, and then cut 20. All right. Dreams Come True is local. They do so much more for families. Oh no, I know they do. They really. Becky Prejean has been. She's about the most phenomenal person ever. No, we're not. All right. 617 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. And looking like sports is going to have to be split in two here. All right, Jake, I tell you what, we're going to kind of shift this on the fly. Let's pause on the Pelican stuff. I want to knock out LSU baseball and softball first. LSU baseball, after getting swept the previous weekend in Arkansas, they returned home this past weekend and swept Missouri. It's cut 20. Swept Missouri. Tigers coach Jay Johnson says he likes the look of his lineup with freshman Josh Pearson leading things off.
Josh is a guy that gets on base. He's also a guy that if you don't pitch carefully at the beginning of the game, he's going to be standing on second base. Then you're dealing with those two guys, and then you go, who's kind of got the clutch gene on your team, and they're sitting there 4-5 with Doty and Morgan, and then Joe Bear has like 12 homers. I mean, sitting in the 7 hole. Those guys wear him out. He takes advantage, has a huge weekend this weekend.
So LSU sweeps Missouri over the weekend. They'll host UNO tomorrow night. That's a 6:30 first pitch. Pre-game will begin at 6 over on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. And then LSU will be at home this weekend. So 29th and, they'll be at home this weekend hosting Georgia for a 3-game set, which means that, what time is that Saturday game? Oh, 2 p.m. Which means campus ought to be kind of busy on Saturday with LSU and Georgia over in the box. And then LSU softball took 2 out of 3 over the weekend at Georgia, posted up an 8-1 win on Friday, got down by a bunch early. They were trailing 13-3 Saturday. They were able to fight back in, ended up losing 16-9 on Saturday. Then Beth Trian's crew closed out the weekend with a 9-5 win yesterday. So LSU softball will play a makeup game versus McNeese tomorrow night and then host Florida for a 3-game set this weekend. So you'll have baseball at the box on Saturday. You'll have softball at Tiger Park on Saturday. And, oh, by the way, 18 million people will be in Tiger Stadium for the Garth Brooks concert. Quick break for the Fox Business Report. When we come back, let's talk Pelicans next. All right. Oh, there we go. Morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo. No, there's 2 Ingram cuts and 1 Willie Green cut. Yeah, no, it's him talk about Valanciunas. I don't like the way that service titles all their stuff because it's over-titled. And then it'll be LRN 7, 8, and 9. Okay. I don't. Tiffany goes on to talk about the other stuff that Dreams Come True does as well. Yeah, they do. They're phenomenal. I can't it's impossible to overstate how impactful they are. Keep an eye on Southeastern's beach volleyball team. My partner son coaches them, and they're rapidly rising. Okay, I will.
The Nelsons depend on their John Deere Gator XUV 835R to get
from point A to point B with decoys and the dogs.
As much as we got going on, it's all about efficiency.
And if you ask the Mosers what they use their Gator XUV 590M for, they tell you.
The most fun we have on the Gator is just ripping around the property.
There are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
Traffic.
Right?
This wagon commute is killing me. You mind if I turn on your old radio?
Oh, this song again. I swear they play the same 3 chants on every station.
At this rate, it's going to take a fortnight to get to work.
Well, just be glad you don't need to fill up. I mean, have you seen the price of hay?
Throughout history, people have always hated to commute. That's why Monster lets you search work from home jobs. Find your job at monster.com.
Renee says, I'm going to the Garth concert. So is half the world.
You can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit ShopBillsTire.com to learn more. There was an earlier accident, I-10 westbound on the Mississippi River Bridge that had that center lane blocked. That accident has been cleared and all lanes are now open, but a lot of the damage has been done, and you'll see congestion all the way back to Acadian right now. As we take a look at some of our drive times, I-10 has cleared up a little bit. It is now 18 minutes Highland Road to the Mississippi River Bridge, and things are still all clear on I-12 at the moment. Still a lot of low volume. Currently a drive time of 16 minutes from Cuban Road to the 10-12 split. And if you're heading into Baton Rouge from the central area this morning, you can expect a drive time of about 20 minutes, Greenville Springs Road to downtown Baton Rouge. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
.624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So the Pels even things out. They even the series out with an 118-103 win last night. Brandon Ingram led the way for the Pelicans with 30 points. After the game, he talked about the team effort. Cut one.
To God be the glory. I feel this. I feel it's our time. We worked so hard throughout the year to become a better team, and we finally get the chance to be on a really, really big stage and continue to play together. My teammates been helping me out a lot, just putting me in the right spots, passing me the ball in the right areas, and just making me look good. It's been a team effort, and I just love playing with the guys.
It has been a team effort. As Ingram had 30, you had 4 different Pelicans in double figures. Herb Jones had 13, C.J. McCollum had 18, but Jonas Valanciunas was the one who just took over in the fourth quarter. In fact, BI credits Valanciunas for that takeover.
He was big, in that third and fourth quarter. He kind of controlled the game on the offensive end, just pounding down low, and on the defensive end, just rebounding the basketball. He was big for us tonight.
Head coach Willie Green echoed those sentiments about Valanciunas.
We just threw the ball down to him, and he did the rest. But it's important for us to establish Jonas in the post. He's one of our anchors offensively. It gets him going. It wears the rest of their guys down. And I thought he did a great job of just trying to capitalize on his opportunities.
So the series is going to move back to Phoenix for Game 5. That game will be, I believe, tomorrow night. I don't think they have an extra travel day built in for this one. No, tomorrow night, yeah. Tuesday night, you'll have Pelicans and Suns rounding out the the schedule for the NBA. By the way, tonight in the NBA, Celtics are at the Nets, Raptors are at the 76ers, Jazz is at the Mavericks. Tuesday will be Hawks at Heat, Timberwolves at Grizzlies, and then Pelicans at the Suns, all tied up at 2. All right, back to the legislative session real quick, and we are going to talk more about the bridge later on in the show. So, State Senator Cleo Fields is looking at your internet and cable bills after a disaster. And you're going to hear more about this in our news at the bottom of the hour. But Senator Cleo Fields says that after a disaster strikes, when outages happen, paying your internet or cable that's not working should not be another burden for consumers. He's got a bill that would work on that.
This bill is when a consumer loses his or her services for 24 hours, they should not have to pay.
Okay. Field says he's not interested in punishing companies, but in making the process of recovery easier. To emphasize that, he proposed amendments to the bill that limited the scope of when the rebates would take effect and who would be subject to them.
Narrow the bill down to gubernatorial declared emergency, and it will narrow it down to those utilities that are not metered.
So if they're not metered, then you're paying for the service. One of the questions that's going to come up is if you had internet available to you, you just didn't have electricity to tap into it. Currently, Field says that a customer needs to contact their cable or internet provider in order to receive a refund if they experience an outage after a hurricane or severe weather. Fields believes these refunds should occur automatically if the outage lasts more than 24 hours. The proposal also puts cable and internet providers under the regulatory authority of the Public Service Commission. This is the part that I find very interesting about the bill. The other side, I don't know that he's going to get anywhere with the other side, but moving them over to the PSC is interesting. Lauren Chauvin, executive director of the Louisiana Internet and Television Association, says they issued millions of dollars in refunds after Ida, and the bill calls for too many restrictions on the service providers themselves.
We oppose the new and burdensome regulation requiring a whole new entity to be regulated by. And then lastly, we oppose the strict liability that SB 352 will impose on our members.
Yeah, and it would get difficult to have something that's not metered, and then you'd have like prorated rebates throughout. By the way, the amended bill did pass through Senate Commerce. Fields pledging to work on the wording of the legislation before he brings it up for a vote in front of the full Senate. I don't know that he's going to get anywhere with it, but I do like the idea of shifting the conversation about cable and internet providers over to the PSC. Because we're going to be talking about this a lot more in the near future as we move towards 5G and everything else that's going to be happening as broadband access becomes that much more available in Louisiana. This is a conversation that's not going to go away anytime soon. And in fact, the conversation is going to get wider and deeper. So having the PSC as the point on this, either them or you'd have a whole other entity. But having the PSC as the point on this would be a conversation worth having, to say the least. We are due up for a break here in just a second. We're going to take that break right now. We got news coming your way at 30 seconds from right now. After we check in with news, Richard Condon's going to head on down the hallway. Every Monday, we like to get your week started off the right way. Condon just basically kicks open the front door. I have no idea what we're talking about this week. I kind of knew where we were going last week. This week, not a clue. Not a clue. If I were guessing, I would think it's going to revolve around crime again, maybe even the Oyo Motel from last week. But anyway, Condon's coming your way next after we check news, traffic, and weather. Also this hour, we've got a Moral Dilemma Monday coming your way to round things out. Right here on Talk 107.3 FM. I'll be back.
deal with a phone, internet, or cable service provider in the aftermath of a natural disaster can be challenging. Baton Rouge Senator Cleo Field says consumers have enough to deal with and wants to simplify the process.
A consumer loses his or her services for 24 hours. They should not have to pay.
Lauren Chauvin of the Louisiana Internet and Television Association says the bill is unfair to those companies, leaving opportunities for people to take advantage with little room for interpretation.
Impose the strict liability that SB 352 will impose on our members.
The bill did pass through committee with amendments to narrow its scope. I'm David Rowe.
A debate is underway in the legislative session on whether Louisiana should increase the number of medical marijuana pharmacy licenses. The legislation does not have the full support of the governor. John Bell Edwards says the framework for dispensing medical marijuana is still relatively new in Louisiana, and adding more licensee holders could be unfair to the existing ones.
And then you change that framework so that nobody would have made that investment early on had they known you were going to come behind them and make the change. I think that could be very problematic.
Current law states the Louisiana Board of Pharmacy can't issue no more than 10 licenses. An LSU student-founded sportsman charter business went big in a business plan competition. Logan Moe is the founder of Mallard Bay, which books guided hunting and fishing trips with reputable charter outfitters. At the Rice University Business Plan Competition,
No.
they won over $200,000.
Really were able to position Mallard Bay as one of the most unique companies that was there and attracted potential good contacts of the company, took home the fourth most money without...
This sucks. I don't have a TV this morning, and I'm not sure why.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Ganji Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shop Bills, where you can get up to $160.
It's I don't know. It's just black over here. I'm not sure.
Visit shopbillstire.com to learn more. Be advised the left lane
Yeah, input doesn't.
I-10 westbound just past
It's where it's supposed to be.
near Sorrento due to an
Yeah.
accident. However, congestion seems to be minimal at this time. Also, eastbound I-12 just
Cable
past
box?
the
I
1012
mean, you're
split
supposed to be
is
putting up cable,
completely
right?
Yeah, the cable box is lit up though. I see the green light on it.
in the roadway, so avoid that area if at all possible. Because right now there is no timetable on when I-12 will be reopened. Taking a look at some of our drive times heading into downtown this morning. It's currently
Yeah.
about 20 minutes Juban Road to the 1012
Yeah.
split.
It's the little red light lights up every time I turn the channel, and the little green light on the cable box. See, it's showing up as.
That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center. Where reports
Yeah.
are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
Jaguar Journal might have been in here Saturday. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the hell anybody does.
Morning, Jake. What's up, buddy? How you feel? I knew you were sick. I didn't know. Flu, something like that?
Hello, Discover here.
Morning, T-Bob.
Our cashback.
Have a good one, Jake.
Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover.
How are you this morning?
Hanging, B, and you?
Doing all right. Just went and yacked. Just went and yacked. I'm hoping that makes me better. It's the second time this morning.
You a trooper, dude. Absolutely.
This wagon commute is killing me. You mind if I turn on the old radio?
Oh, this song again. I swear they play the same three chants on every station.
This rate's gonna take a fortnight to get to work.
Well, just be glad you don't need to fill up. I mean, have you seen the price of hay?
Throughout history, people have always hated to commute. That's why Monster lets you search work from home jobs. Find your job at monster.com.
Byron and Galen make good points about the moving over to the PSC. That is actually, yeah, both very good points. Why give government control of anything they don't already have control of?
I don't know. I'm making it up as I go. How you like that, huh?
Showers and storms could pack the punch with brief periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, and frequent lightning. Heavy showers will start to clear.
I don't know. If it happens, it happens.
It will be muggy heading into
Hey,
Tuesday.
be fun.
Showers possible. More
What are we talking about? Oh. Well, we're going to find out right about now.
Get nervous, dude.
I'm always. 637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So every Monday we like to kick open the front door of the week by bringing Richard Condon down the hall. We do that right now. Rich!
How are you, buddy?
I'm golden, brother. How are you?
Nice weekend?
I had a glorious weekend. How about yourself?
Anything the average listener would find exciting? Not just you and the family?
Probably not. I mean, it's, you know, I'm a relatively boring guy. Got together with some folks and stopped off for a little get together on Saturday afternoon after the spring game. I had to work the spring game, which was fun.
I'm glad you brought that up.
The spring game?
Yeah.
Why is that?
135 days, that's when LSU takes on Florida State in the Dome.
Uh-huh.
Brian, I will tell you this.
What?
Watch the spring game,
Mhm.
SEC Plus.
Mhm.
Saw the organization, over 240 recruits in that stadium. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
The parents absolutely love Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
The players love him. He embraced the former players coming back. You saw more energy. You saw more organization. It didn't seem as confused as it has in the past. Considering who he's recruiting right now, considering the foundation he's putting together, Brian, I think we're getting ready to see something special. I've never been this excited in this short period of a time. You watch the show Shark Tank, right?
Every once in a while.
Well, guess what? Shark Tank, you know the best scenario for these entrepreneurs is when they get two sharks, right?
Yeah.
LSU's got two sharks. They got Brian Kelly and they got Scott Woodward.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the combination of these two and seeing how organized Brian Kelly is and seeing how he's slowly, fitting in and his wit is coming out a little bit. He's feeling more comfortable. It took him a while. I really think this team's going to be, look, it's his first season. He's got a lot of guys to replace because of transfer portal. Guys not coming back for whatever reason. This LSU football team, how many games they're going to win, I don't know, but the foundation is being set, Brian.
Yeah.
And I really believe within 2 or 3 seasons, this team's going to be back in the groove. I assure you this, all the coaches in the SEC and people around the nation who follow college football, their eyes are on Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, no doubt.
For what Brian Kelly's doing.
No doubt. The hard part is going to be maintaining that level of positivity throughout the tough times. Because it is going to be a little bit lean this year, and then you've got to worry about what's coming down from the NCAA on the basketball end. Like maintaining a level of positivity throughout the storms that are going to be short-term in order to reach long-term success.
But you could tell with the excitement going on. I mean, look at the people Kim Mulkey's bringing in, the transfers.
Mm-hmm.
And, McMahon, the new basketball coach, he's bringing in guys. I mean, not guys that could go play at Duke or North Carolina, but at least he's filling a roster.
Guys that are actively going to a roster that could be under sanctions in the next year.
And
Yes.
good guys who play basketball. They're not great basketball players, but they're good enough to play. And, it's a period of transition for everybody, even Kim Mulkey with the season she's had. But look what she's doing and bringing in the latest lady from West Virginia who Kim Mulkey played against in the Big 12 tournament. They got a lot of great things going on out there right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that athletic department, I've never seen it this good. Big look. I know you got 2 kids, and
I have 3.
You have 3?
I do.
Oh, you got 2 girls and a son.
Right.
I can't believe I left out your son.
It's okay.
But look, if you want to go to an event that's all about loving one another and treating people with respect and
yes,
provides for children
That's
and
what we do.
grandchildren with so many positive role models.
How was your weekend?
Hang on, I'm not done.
Okay.
Promotes setting goals in life, working hard to achieve success, never wavering. The event also, Haldane, it promotes helping others in a time of need and putting others before yourself. You want another thing it does?
What's that?
It promotes and believes in honesty and relationships, complimenting others when they deserve to be complimented, being polite, being kind to everyone, being generous with their belongings, and making the best of every situation.
Shouldn't this just be normal life?
It should be, but I'm not talking about normal life. I'm talking about the Angola Rodeo.
Oh, God.
See, what person doesn't get excited about taking the family after church on a Sunday to the Angola Rodeo and just buying, some arts and crafts for somebody who's never going to get out of prison? To me, that is a great family event. To sit there and watch a guy who's burglarized 40 homes over the past 15 years.
Yeah, but he made a birdhouse.
But exactly right. But he's doing belts, and now he's doing wall paintings of a
belts.
bull being stabbed by a matador.
Yeah.
You follow me?
No,
You
I
get
do,
your little
I do.
black light, put it right there, put it in your room. It's good stuff. Now, look, Haldane, we talk about Black Lives.
I've never been to the Angola Rodeo.
Good for you. Look, it's good maybe you take the kids on a picnic or take them to the movies or take them to see your mama now.
Mhm.
Better scenario. Now, B, help me understand this. Now, we talk about Black Lives Matter. You know, it began in 2013, okay? That's after Trayvon Martin was shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this has been talked about. This is no earth-breaking news, but if ever there was a moment for Black Lives Matter to really prove a point, to show that Black Lives Matter, it's when a National Guardsman, 22 years of age, Bishop Evans, dives into a river to save 2 illegal immigrants who were drowning. He loses his life. His body still hadn't been recovered, so we got to assume he passed away, right?
Yeah.
All right, the 2 illegals saved. They get ashore. He's no longer with us. Now, if Black Lives Matter really wanted to prove a point, to reach out to his family, to show love, to show support, like Shaq did for the young girl in town who lost her life.
Yes.
Stray bullet Shaq picked up.
Yep.
Now, with that $6 million home out in California, maybe they don't have $10,000 to pay for this National Guardsman's funeral. You follow me?
Right.
But we talk about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't matter, according to Black Lives Matter, the organization, when teenagers shoot one another and when young black men shoot one another. You follow me?
I do.
There's no we got to stop the violence now. So, all right, you can pick and choose your moments because that doesn't make national news and that's not going to stir the meter or whatever. But if ever that was the case for Black Lives Matter to come out publicly and praise a black life, a gentleman who risked his life for
gave his life
for people not in this country, but I guarantee you won't hear anything from him.
No, you
and
won't.
if ever there's a good scenario, there's no reason why you don't get involved in this. It's a national story,
right?
So you get all your free publicity and everything you're looking for. This is, to me, is the epitome how Black Lives Matter is just a mirage. It's a political gimmick. It's how they pass.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but how they get money on insecure people. I mean, this is truly the definition of a Black Lives Matter. All Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But if ever you want, all right, fine, this is our opportunity. We get national coverage, all the negative publicity we're receiving. This would be a positive thing.
It's not
Maybe
the right
this
emotion.
would start. Yeah, but maybe
it's not the right emotion, Rich. This would do something with a positive emotion behind it. That Black Lives Matter is not about Black lives at all. It's about pointing fingers.
All right, now, Brian, look, over the weekend, I don't know if Matt Broom's going to do another week of peace. That didn't work out too well, did it? Over the weekend, 53-year-old grandmother, 28-year-old daughter. You heard about that.
Yep.
That's got to be the most heinous, despicable, disgusting story
this
I've
is
ever
the
seen.
4-year-old with the
with the Canadian
whiskey?
Miss. With the Canadian Miss.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to make your 4-year-old granddaughter drink something, can we spend a few more bucks and get some Jameson? 17-year-old.
I debated whether or not I was going to go that route.
Canadian Miss, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you that pissed because your daughter was drinking granddaughter was drinking Canadian Miss?
Right. Anything you get a handle of for $17 isn't the good stuff.
Wow, I hope you throw a New Year's Eve party and invite me over. 17-year-old girl killed, apartment complex. 15-year-old boy shot off a Storing Lane. Student muggings, off-campus apartments. That was just Friday and Saturday. Yesterday, 2 people shot at 5700 block of Stern Street. 15-year-old injured from a gunshot wound.
That was in Broadmoor.
On Browning Drive.
Yeah.
And then you got last night, a Baton Rouge police officer responded to an emergency call. He gets shot at.
Yeah.
And that's just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
That's it in Baton Rouge.
You left out the Broadmoor Plantation Apartments, too. That was on Friday, too.
Oh, I did leave that one out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, B, is it time we start maybe dividing Baton Rouge, have a North and South Baton Rouge, have 2 mayors? But with the South Baton Rouge, you got to pocket in a little bit of, North Baton Rouge right there.
Okay, what part of North Baton Rouge would you do, though?
I don't know. I mean, it's happening all over. Would you go in between Florida and government?
I don't know. Florida Boulevard's been the dividing line, right? Anything north of Florida is considered North Baton Rouge.
I remember when I first came here. When I first came here in '78, there was no such thing.
No, I know.
There was no such thing.
But there shouldn't be such a thing.
I looked at my road map in the glove box of the '78 Trans Am to get to Cartana Mall. Now we know what that mall went down, and then you look what happened several weeks ago at the Mall of Louisiana.
Right.
Okay, and then you look what happened at Perkins Road.
Yeah, I
that
know.
incident in the garage. When does it stop?
But hey,
is Baton Rouge crime and New Orleans crime going to hook up at Tanger? Is the folks down in Gonzales going to wonder who's coming here first?
Maybe when we get a train back and forth between the two, they can make that happen a little more easily. But here's the thing, Rich. Of everything you just read off, how many of those incidents were north of Florida and how many of those incidents were south of Florida?
And you know what? Hey, you and I talked about this before. I praise Chief Paul for a couple of weeks ago, coming out and saying it's parenting, it starts at home.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the mayor to do it. You remember the old Mickey Mouse thing? MICKEYMOUSE? PARENTING, parenting.
Oh, absolutely.
But Broom won't do it.
No.
She's not going to do it.
No.
You know why she's not going to do it?
Why's that?
Because a lot of people she doesn't want to alienate. Same reason why Cito Narcisse never comes out and says anything about guns and weapons being found on these campuses in public schools. Let me ask you this, right? If your child, wait, if you're real quick, we got to roll. I get it.
I know.
But if your child went to a public school, right?
Yeah.
Continuously, there was another gun on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Another knife found on campus. Eventually, wouldn't you want the superintendent of all schools to just come out and say this? I'm asking the parents to do that. We're going to implement this program to at least try to protect kids. He's the head of the whole school board.
I'm with you.
And he
I'm
never
with you.
says
No,
that.
I know. I'm with you.
You don't even get his voice like Charlie's Angels.
Bosley was the name of the guy from Charlie's Angels.
Thanks, B. I'm glad Jake's back. He's feeling good.
Here's Richard Condon. You'll find him down the hall on Eagle 98.1. Stops in with us every Monday to do exactly that. Love you, brother.
You too, bro.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We're going to break, check your money now, check traffic. Coming back with a Moral Dilemma Monday next. All right, let's get the comments rolling on Moral Dilemma Monday. When is it okay to blast a company on social media? When is it okay to blast? Yeah, we're seeing it more and more with video becoming more popular on social media and just really taking over everything. Complaining about service is like America's pastime at this point. But when is it okay to actually put a company on blast on social media? Let us know. All right, let's see. Byron says I need to include red breast Irish whiskey in my life. Oh, God, I wish. That's what? That's like a $75 bottle. Some of those inmates wasted talent to find it in the pen. Yeah. The group that bought $6 million mansion is not a part of the real Black Lives Matter organization. Don't disagree with the sentiment, but it's important to get the facts correct. It's a shadow BLM now? What? The north of Florida Boulevard doesn't make the news like the south. What do you mean? North of Florida Boulevard is always in the news. The crime train. Thank you, Troy. You said I've got, which one was my first, what's my first live read? Okay. Yeah, that little earworm's gonna be stuck for the rest of the day, huh? Nice. Yep.
your family the security they need at a price you can afford. For your free quote, call 1-800-714-6633. That's 1-800-714-6633. Or go to selectquote.com. That's 1-800-714-6633. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Guarantee Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shaw Bills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit ShawBillsTire.com to learn more. Be advised that I-12 eastbound between the 1012 split and Essen Lane is completely closed due to a vehicle fire. We have a fully engulfed 18-wheeler that is in the roadway. For alternate routes, you could use Florida Boulevard. However, if that is too congested, you could go south of the interstate and use Perkins Road. Also, we do have an accident with injury on Choctaw Drive at Hiawatha Street. It's not causing any major backups, but use caution when you're in that area. And that earlier accident on I-10 westbound near LA-22 in Sorrento has been cleared, and all lanes are open. Times it's a little over 20 minutes Juban to the 1012 split, and 16 minutes Highland to the bridge. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawville. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
Complete collision. 653 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So every Monday we like to do what we call Moral Dilemma Monday. Taking your comments on YouTube, on our YouTube chat, as we are live on YouTube every day. Taking your comments, and we post out a question, and there's no wrong answer here. But one of the things we've been talking about is it seems to be a growing hobby of Americans to blast companies on social media. You have the slightest bad experience at a restaurant, you got bad service somewhere, instantly you have to let everyone know about it. Instantly you need to blast them on your social media. Rather than taking the complaint directly to somebody, because that's you're automatically positioned as a Karen in that regard. Like to speak to a manager. But rather than try to handle things through proper channels, just going at them. I'll never go back to XYZ place. The service was terrible. The food was terrible. The manager smells funny. When is it the appropriate time to put a company on blast on social media? Let us know on YouTube. It's just something that's been growing in popularity, and like I said, there's no wrong answers, no right answers with Moral Dilemma Monday. It's something that's been growing, though, with the rise of so many different outlets on social media giving you the perfect platform to do this. TikTok is one that has been through the roof lately. But when is it okay? Just because you had one bad experience one day. Let us know. Post it up on YouTube. When is the right time, or is there a right time and a right way to put somebody on blast, to trash somebody via social media? We'll dive into a couple comments in just a little bit. First, I got to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. Complete Collision Center has 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary, Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, just east of Bluebonnet Boulevard. What will you find at Complete Collision Center? You're going to find top-notch training. You're going to find certifications. You are going to find folks who know their trade inside and out. Doug Reed and his team over at Complete Collision Center, they make sure that they are up to speed on the latest techniques for fixing your vehicle and fixing your vehicle safely. They are certified by most major car manufacturers, and they have the iCar Gold Class certification. That means Complete Collision Center is among the top 15% of collision repair businesses nationwide. That means they meet the industry's highest standards for training. That means they've trained up on the latest repair techniques. That means they know what can be repaired, what needs to be replaced, and how to spot hidden damage. They're trained on advanced safety systems. They know how to make the proper decisions for complete and safe repairs. Your family's safety is their number one priority. Their phone number is 768-9898. Fortunately, that's an easy number to remember, because if you're ever in an accident, well, you're going to need that number quickly. 768-9898, or check them out online. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. So you're angry at a company. Their product, their service stinks. You can't reach anyone to complain, or you don't even bother to try to, and you're tempted to just blast their ineptitude on social media for the whole world to see. Is there a right way to do this? Is there a wrong way to do this? Let us know. We're posting it up on our YouTube chat. Byron says, I've never slighted a company on social media. A company is more than one employee's actions. Byron already with a level-headed answer to start things off. Eric says, if you've handled it through the proper channels with no resolution, if it takes a social media post to get their attention, then yes. Tiffany says, I've let the Karen pendulum swing too far the other way in my life. I put up with a lot of you-know-what without speaking up because I don't want to be labeled a Karen. Yeah, I think we've kind of gone down that route to where anybody who speaks up is labeled as such, and that shouldn't be the case. But there is a lot of entitlement out there, though. There's a lot of entitlement that, oh, the air conditioner hit me in the wrong way. I want to speak to the manager, and I want this meal and the next 10 meals to be free. But when is it okay for your one particular instance, your one particular experience at a business to be someone else's only view of a business? You go to a restaurant and you have a bad experience. Well, you are one customer on one night. You telling me everybody that went through those doors had the same experience as you? But that's the impression you're creating. You telling everybody else who patronizes that business is doing so foolishly? There are a number of different websites out there who kind of agree with Eric. Eric says if you haven't exhausted multiple attempts in person or through phone calls, emails, etc., then social media shouldn't be used. That seems to be the consensus among the business community. You don't want to Twitter shame a company right away. Instead, send the company a direct message rather than a public tweet. When a company sees that you're direct messaging them through a social channel, they know you have the ability to not direct message them, and sometimes they appreciate that you did it this way. This could elicit a quicker, more helpful response. There's also, and this I think has become more prevalent post-pandemic, especially in the food service world, you don't know what the company's dealing with from day to day, from a staffing standpoint. Like, let's just say you are going to pull into a fast food outlet and you want to pull in through the drive-thru, and the drive-thru line is just not moving. You have no idea what's going on inside the building because a lot of them are still closed and doing drive-thru only. All you know is, I've sat here for 20 minutes now and I haven't moved. Well, first of all, why are you sitting there? But secondly, are we talking about one person inside, two people inside, trying to get it all done? Let me know. We're taking your comments on YouTube. It's Moral Dilemma Monday. Quick break. When we come back, top stories and trending are next. All right, YouTube. Great comments thus far. Great job thus far. Troy says, I question whether a general social media blast has much effect. I do pay attention to product reviews. See, but the thing, is there even a difference anymore? A product review, I don't know, social media has left so much up to interpretation, and social media leaves so much up to self-importance. All right, I'm going to try and fix this. that light on? Yeah, it's on.
She was a great mother, friend, with all the best qualities, Yuri says. My world died, killed by a Russian missile.
I'm Vicky Barker in London. British defense officials say
See, the thing is, the TV says do not turn off, but it gets turned off every day.
they're exhausted. We're also keeping them from deploying to eastern Ukraine. Russian offensive seems to be slowing. They also suggest Russian defense officials are increasingly desperate to hide the true scale of Russia's losses from the public.
White House correspondent Nancy Cordes has more on what the U.S. is offering Ukraine.
During the trip, the leaders announced that the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv is going to reopen in the coming weeks, and that U.S. diplomats are actually going to start making day trips into the country next week, starting in Lviv in the west. So business back to something like usual.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court hears the case former high school football coach Joseph Kennedy brought against the school district in Bremerton, Washington. He would kneel in prayer at the 50-yard line after game. Players joining in. The district told him to stop.
Yeah, this is not getting me any signal at all.
Choose between my job and my faith. And nobody in America should have to face that kind of decision.
Rachel Leiser is president of Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
Multiple parents came forward and said, my students felt pressured to pray to play. My students felt pressured to pray to feel part of the team.
Yay, I didn't die. All right, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Let's see. The only ones I call out at Facebook is and Hulu. Can't talk to anyone. If you do, it's a waste of time. It takes a lot for me to speak to a manager or anyone. I have tipped horrible service because I have no idea what the person is going through or if the kitchen sucks. Never spoken to a manager, only for Cox, because the lady I was talking to didn't know what Ethernet was. Well, that's just silly. My issue with the product reviews is I have no idea what the qualifications are of the person reviewing them. And they all, well, I shouldn't say they all. A lot of them start with like this holier than thou, I'm smarter than you mentality. Someone's looking to be a critic. Okay.
As temperatures climb into the mid-80s, this afternoon a front will be approaching the area from the northwest. Showers will become widespread by dinner time, and your evening commute may be moving a little slower than usual today. Showers and storms could pack a punch with brief periods of heavy winds and frequent light showers will start to clear as the sun goes down tonight. It will be muggy heading into Tuesday with a few leftover showers possible in the morning, and then we'll dry out for the rest of the work week.
I've complained about Tiffany says, I've complained about you several times, but Christy keeps telling me to contact the Guarantee customer service line. That's funny. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Fantastic discussion going on YouTube, on the chat on YouTube, which is why I love doing that. Moral Dilemma Monday. There's never a wrong answer, only your feedback. When is it okay to blast a company online? When is it okay to blast a company on your social media? And your perspective of what's going on with their business can be skewed. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and yet you hold that power in your hands. You hold that power in your hands to put them on blast, to put them in a position of having to defend themselves, rather than going through the proper channels, or even attempting to go through the proper channels. I don't know, a lot of really good discussion going on, not just about that, but about product reviews as well, which is going to bring up a whole other discussion about qualifications. Let me know. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there. We do this every Monday. We call it Moral Dilemma Monday. Hey, speaking of what we do every Monday, we've got Medical Monday coming your way in our next segment. Going to be talking autism this week with Dr. Stephen Felix. Also this hour, we're going to be speaking with Stephen Wangersbach from LABI. Get a little update on the goings-on of the legislative session and a few other tidbits as well. We will round out the morning with the outside in. 60 seconds from right now, we will have top stories and trending, but I do have to remind you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. They've got 2 locations. 4065 Florida Boulevard is their mid-city location. They're also on the corner of Jefferson and Houcheteux, and let's see, we are still in April, so the truckload sale is still going on. The 5th annual truckload sale is still going on right now. Too many different name brand mattresses to list individually as far as the savings you're going to find, but I can tell you it's throughout the store. I can also tell you that Mitch Kimball and his team at both locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet want to make sure you're finding the mattress that's right for you. Mattresses aren't just one size fits all. One level of comfort fits all. You might be into pillow top while somebody else might be into the cooling gel. I went with the hybrid. I went with the Sealy Beauty Rest Black Label. Oh, so good. They got a phone number if you want to call them to get directions, 930-5779. But I would recommend just swinging by and start trying out mattresses. 4065 Florida Boulevard at the corner of Jefferson and Houcheteux. And as always, if you mention you heard about it right here, drop my name. You'll get free delivery and a free pillow. The 5th annual truckload sale continues all this week at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, both locations. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's hit it. A man who was arrested in May on murder charges was arrested again Saturday night after leading police on a chase from Mid-City to North Baton Rouge. It started when officers noticed a car driving with a switched license plate and stopped the vehicle at South Foster Drive. The driver, India Slaughter, got out of the car, was talking to officers when the passenger, 24-year-old Darius Dixon, slid into the driver's seat and took off. Arrest documents said Dixon drove off of the road against the flow of traffic, blew through stop signs and stoplights, hit a police unit while trying to evade officers. Officers said Dixon got out of the car around 2605 Doherty Drive, began to run before he was arrested. Documents said Dixon had 9.1 grams of marijuana, 1.5 grams of cocaine in his pants pocket. Officers found 1.8 grams of cocaine and a 9mm rifle in the car. Dixon was booked for criminal damage to property, distribution of cocaine and marijuana, illegal carrying of weapons with drugs, felon in possession of a firearm, resisting an officer, aggravated flight from an officer, no insurance, and switched license plates. By the way, in 2021, Dixon was arrested and booked for second-degree murder and the killing of 26-year-old Trenton Jones. According to court records, he was arrested for Jones's murder, then later released and has not been formally charged. 2 suspects were arrested after a shooting Friday in an apartment complex on Florida Boulevard that killed a teenage girl. BRPD said 17-year-old Alacia Collins was killed in the shooting. 23-year-old Joshua London and 20-year-old Quariana Richard were arrested for their involvement in her death. Police say the shooting happened around 6:52 p.m. at the Broadmoor Plantation Apartments on Florida Boulevard. Collins was allegedly at the apartment complex for a fight. After the physical altercation, police say Collins was driving away from the scene when she was shot by London, who was in Richard's vehicle. She was transported to a hospital and treated, but later died from her injuries. 2 people were injured in a shooting Sunday on Stearns Street. BRPD said the 2 unidentified victims were wounded Sunday afternoon at a home in the 2600 block of Stearns. The victims' injuries are non-life-threatening. Police said 1 victim drove themselves to the hospital. Condon talked about this one a little while ago. After shutting down Plank Road, police located a suspect who shot at an officer Sunday night. Police officer said the officer was not hit, but the police unit was. Law enforcement shut down Plank Road shortly after 8:30 Sunday night to find the suspect, who ran from the corner of Plank and Evangeline with a gun. No more information about this story was made immediately available. Back to Broadmoor. A teenager was shot early Sunday afternoon, is in critical condition after being injured in a drive-by shooting in the Broadmoor area. According to BRPD, the 15-year-old was shot along Linnell Street around 3:30 p.m. No more information about this story was made available yet either. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Well, stepping away from the crime, it was a fantastic weekend otherwise in Baton Rouge. Gorgeous weekend in Baton Rouge. The weather held off for most of the weekend. We did have some showers Sunday afternoon, though. Hundreds of folks gathered downtown for the annual Baton Rouge Blues Fest. Both locals and out-of-towners have waited years for this festival to make its comeback. Not only did the Blues Fest bring everyone together once again to enjoy each other's company, it brought a lot of good business downtown as well. A lot of hotel rooms were sold as well. Look, I was out there for Live After 5 on Friday evening, and if the crowd to see Kenny Neal at Live After 5 was any indicator of what the weekend was going to bring, it was going to be phenomenal. What a ridiculously great crowd. What a ridiculously deep crowd over there at Galvez Plaza downtown for Live After 5. Kenny Neal's show was fantastic, and it was kind of the unofficial kickoff to the weekend for the Baton Rouge Blues Fest. Those are your top stories in trending. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Medical Mondays coming your way next on Talk 107.3. All right. Hey, YouTube, Medical Monday is pre-recorded, so you're going to hear it. I'm going to step away for a minute during the segment, but you'll be hearing the whole segment as well. Mike Rowe's going to be on with Kill Me today? Mike Strain will be at the press club today. Talking about the impact of the war in Ukraine on wheat prices and all things Louisiana agriculture. Interesting. All right, I'll be back in a minute, y'all. Enjoy Medical Monday. It's actually a very good conversation about autism.
It's time for Medical Monday, brought to you in the interest of your health by Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center.
Yes, it is time for Medical Monday. We team up every Monday with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake, and today is no different. Today we're talking with Dr. Stephen Felix, and we're talking autism. Dr. Felix, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
Doing very, very well. Let's start with about the most basic question you're ever going to get. What is autism? How would you describe it to, like, if there's anybody who's never heard of it before, how would you describe what is autism?
Sure. That autism is a developmental disorder, a disorder of brain development. So it's not a psychiatric or medical condition, but a difference in how the brain develops in infancy, early childhood. It manifests itself by impairments in three areas of development. One would, and the one that probably most people think of, is impairments in social interactions, that these children may not interact at all socially, but they may also have some interactions with others, but they may be very unusual. These children may not play with other children appropriately, seeking only a very limited type of things that they play with. They may only interact with other children when they're doing exactly the type of play that they like. As they get older, they may have difficulties in understanding others' emotions, responding appropriately, empathically to them, understanding their nonverbal communication. So those are the difficulties that we see in social interactions. Another area that's impaired is language use. And again, there can be a range of how individuals show autism with language use. Some have limited to no language development, but others may have some language development, but it may be, again, unusual in how they show it. They may have speech where they repeat back what others say exactly. They may communicate from memorized lines from movies and videos. They may, as they get older, have significant difficulties in understanding more abstract language, that is, language such as sarcasm, humor, metaphors, so that they're not quite getting what people are saying when they're using not literal language. The third area is that there can be difficulties with repetitive behaviors. It can be spinning, rocking, flapping, but it can also be very obsessive interest with certain things to the exclusion of all else. And there may be a number of sensory sensitivities in children to loud sounds, certain food textures. And so that's kind of what you see in autism. And it is a spectrum, so you have some individuals who are very impaired, who have a number of behaviors, very limited social interactions and language use, to those who do very well and can even go on and go to college, do very well in professions, but have difficulties struggling with more subtle social interactions and language use.
I'm glad you brought up the spectrum into this, because it's not something that's cut and dry as either you have it or you don't. There are many levels that can make it that much harder to either or diagnose, or from a parent's perspective, accept that it's there.
Right, and because it is a spectrum, it's not just one thing. And through the years, I've probably diagnosed perhaps maybe about 5,000 children with autism, and no two are the same. It's almost like they're their own unique diagnosis. But they all have that overarching impairments in social interactions, impairments in language use, and those stereotyped repetitive behaviors at some level or other.
How common is autism?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's some different reports on what it is, but we think right now it's about approximately 1 in 45 children, so a little more than 2% of children.
Are certain groups more susceptible, or is it more likely in certain people?
It is more likely in certain people. It's more likely in boys. It probably occurs 4 times more often in boys than girls, and the symptoms in girls can frequently be more subtle, so they may be tending towards that more subtle end that we were describing.
How's it diagnosed?
It can be diagnosed by someone who has had experience in working with children, diagnosing children with autism for at least a few years. For example, child neurologists, child psychiatrists, developmental pediatricians, which I am. But probably the best approach overall is a team approach. And what I mean by that is having a number of different individuals address the different areas of impairments that the child may have. And so what's important overall in that team approach is to have perhaps a speech therapist, a developmental pediatrician, child neurologist, an occupational therapist, and perhaps even a psychologist, so that those areas of language impairment, those sensory issues, some of those cognitive issues, and then those developmental issues that a developmental pediatrician, child neurologist can address, can look at. And combined with this team approach, all these different areas of impairments can be looked at and said, this child does meet the criteria for the diagnosis of autism, and this child doesn't meet the criteria for the diagnosis of autism.
Okay, I guess a follow-up there would be, when is it diagnosed? Because a lot of the symptoms that you talked about, a lot of the signs that parents would be on the lookout for, are more based off of either learning or interaction. So about what age are most children diagnosed when they are?
The average age still is about 4 years of age that children are diagnosed. That's the average. But children can be reliably diagnosed as early as 24 months, 27 months. So it is important for parents, if they have a concern, to go to their pediatrician, raise their concerns, and especially if they're approaching 2 years of age and there's significant concerns, to seek to have those concerns addressed.
We're talking with Dr. Stephen Felix about autism. Looking at the age range, I'm sure I've seen this somewhere before. Can autism be detected during pregnancy?
No, I'm not sure that I've seen that report, but clearly, part of the diagnosis of autism is that there are impairments in those social interactions. There are those impairments in language use that won't be present until they're older, about 2.5, 3 years of age. So we can't diagnose autism from conception, pregnancy, even in the early years, the first year of life, the early second year of life. We're sometimes still not clear based upon what we see. There are some individuals that are working on more early diagnosis clues, how to diagnose earlier, maybe 15 to 18 months of age, but under that, it's pretty difficult.
I only ask, as a father of 3, you get hit with every kind of test or thing to be on the lookout for, or just, if I could be blunt, things to be scared of during the pregnancy. So I just had to toss that one out there.
Sure.
What should parents be looking for at home before letting a doctor know something?
Sure. Well, there could be a number of red flags to consider. Certainly in the child under a year of age, as they're getting to 9, 10, 11 months of age, if they don't seem to respond to their name being called. Not looking, typically, again, children by the end of the first year of life are looking at their parents' faces, eyes. If they're not, and especially when they're toddlers in their second year of life, they're not looking towards their parents, making eye contact with them, that's of concern. If there doesn't seem to be any imitation of what others are doing, the pretend play, the peekaboo, the imitating different activities in late infancy, early toddler, imitating silly faces, imitating noises, et cetera, that can be a concern if that's not happening by 15, 18 months of age. Children not pointing. Pointing is a form of nonverbal communication, and if they're not doing that, certainly by 18 months of age, that can be a concern. And then in the second year of life, as they don't show any interest in parallel play with other children, and as they become 24, 27 months of age, starting to show interest in direct play with other children, that's concerning. Inappropriate play, where they're just lining up objects, there's no pretend play, and certainly no pretend play by the second year of life, feeding a doll, driving a car, that's concerning. And then if there are any sort of repetitive movements, spinning, rocking, flapping, hands, repetitive vocalization, making repetitive sounds, these can all be sort of red flags, if you will, for autism.
What causes it? Do we know?
We don't know exactly. We do think in general that it probably is genetics, and the genetics are probably very complicated. There are probably multiple genes involved in the origin of autism. There, half of the genes we have code for brain development at one level or another. So it's probably very complicated. It's probably genetic. It's not anything anyone did during pregnancy or in the first months of life. It's not anyone's fault. It's just something that happened from conception.
Let's talk treatments for just a minute. And by the way, Dr. Stephen Felix is our guest. We're talking autism on this installment of Medical Monday. Let's talk treatments for children with autism. How are things managed?
Right. There's to start off with, and sometimes people ask this. There's no medical treatment. There's no medicine for autism. So we'll start with that. Now, sometimes we use medicines for behaviors that come out of autism, such as some children with autism are very anxious, so we treat with anxiety meds. Some children have severe ADHD, so we treat that, et cetera, et cetera. But those are more secondary behaviors. When we're talking about working with a child with autism, it is working with their core areas of impairment. So working with speech therapy to address the language delays, working with occupational therapy to address any sensory issues, fine motor delays, and then working with behavioral strategies. For example, there's applied behavioral analysis, which is one behavioral intervention to work with different behaviors in children with autism. There are other behavioral interventions such as floor time, social skills groups, social stories to teach children more appropriate social interactions. So working with those varied therapies to help with their areas of impairment, those are the core treatments to work with children with autism. That children with autism frequently will benefit from earlier intervention. So the earlier these interventions are begun, the better the outcomes we believe will happen in the long term. So again, starting these interventions early, getting their child to the pediatrician, getting them identified as having delays, getting them therapies early, that's the key.
Okay, since there is no medical treatment, I assume there is no cure, but what you're describing suggests that there is movement within the spectrum. Is that off?
That children with autism, the vast majority will make progress with therapies. There is a subset that make limited progress, but the vast majority do make progress. Now, progress varies from child to child. So some children will make a small amount of progress. Some children will make an amazing amount of progress. I have seen more than a few children with autism through the years go from being nonverbal with limited social interactions to I have several that have graduated and gone off to college and are quite successful in college and interacting with others. So that the progress that can be made with these varied therapies in autism can be quite dramatic in some kids.
It's amazing what we've learned just in recent years alone and where we're going to be headed with this as well. In the meanwhile, where can folks learn more?
I think if they can contact Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health.org and go to the developmental medicine section, they can find out more about the developmental centers both at McMains and at Goodwood, where we treat children, diagnose children, and treat children with autism.
He is Dr. Stephen Felix. Really appreciate a few minutes of your time. Very enlightening stuff.
Sure thing. Thank you for your time.
Medical Monday presented every week by the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake. Love teaming up with them. Never a shortage of great information coming your way. And thanks to Dr. Stephen Felix talking a little autism this week. All right. We are due up for a break. Going to check news, going to check traffic, going to check weather. When we come back, we go from one Stephen to another. This time, we'll be speaking with Stephen Wagasback, the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Get caught up on what they are up to over at the legislative session and a few other notes as well. That's all coming your way next. Right now, let's hit CBS News here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right. Chris brings up an interesting point on Twitter. What if your experience is online only? What do you do then? Back to the Moral Dilemma Monday topic. Chris says, at Brian Haldane, one difficult situation is when your customer experience is online only. It's often impossible to get someone on the phone who can really help, and good luck getting a response to your email asking for help. Yeah. But so you have little room for recourse there, but at the same time, you're one of thousands. And are you doing the right thing by painting a picture that makes it sound like this is the way the company always is?
It had really been made clear to me that a sexual assault survivor does not have the right to her report.
Meisel's measure says a copy must be provided to the patient no later than 14 days after the request is received. After a disaster strikes, outages are likely, and paying for your internet or cable that is not working should not be another burden for consumers. So says Baton Rouge Senator Cleo Fields.
The whole purposes of this bill is when a consumer loses his or her services for 24 hours, they should not have to pay.
The legislation is passed out of a Senate committee, but Fields is still working on the wording of the bill to make sure consumers get relief while also trying not to punish cable and internet providers. The Pelicans even their playoff series with the Suns at 2 games apiece by outscoring Phoenix by 17 points in the second half on their way to a 118-103 victory. Sun star Chris Paul was held to 4 points and turned it over 3 times. It got testy between CP3 and Pelicans rookie Jose Alvarado.
I ain't running away from no smoke. You know, it's all about basketball. Nothing personal. I'm going to stand on my own and, I'm going to do my part.
Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Ganty Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shop Hills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit shophillstire.com to learn more. Be advised that eastbound I-12 near the 1012 split is still closed due to that earlier 18-wheeler that was on fire. The fire's put out, however, the roadways are still closed. You can take I-10 and get off at Essen Lane, then use Essen to get back on at I-12 to avoid that closure. Also, there is an accident in the roadway westbound I-12 near Essen Lane. A lane of travel is blocked, so delays are likely. And we do have a crash on O'Neill Lane near Commercial Avenue and Riverdale Avenue. No major congestion at this time. Just use caution in that area. Checking some drive times. It's about 30 minutes Cuban to the 1012 split and 20 minutes Highland Road to the bridge. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
Radio Health Journal. Not everybody is ready for a transformative life change, so we want to make sure everybody has access to the information and resources that they need to be safe and healthy.
How a historic focus on harm reduction can save lives.
Then how implicit bias and racial discrimination amongst healthcare providers results
That's a good
in
one.
poor quality of care for
We might do that one another time.
All that and more on Radio Health Journal. To hear these stories and more, visit radiohealthjournal.org.
Hey, Steven. Yo, what you want to cover today?
Small, depend on the good folks driving the big rigs. From the food we eat to the things we use every day, they're the link in the supply chain that delivers what we need wherever we need.
Okay.
Thanks, Louisiana truckers, for making life go round. Sponsored by the LMTA Foundation, promoting Louisiana's trucking industry.
Louisiana truckers make life go round in every Louisiana town.
At Progressive, you can get 24/7 protection, even
Okay.
if you break the space-time continuum.
No, that's more than enough. Cleo's bill is weird. It's Yeah, but the only part of it I like is the idea of entertaining, letting the PSC have at it, but that would just be more governmental regulation, and I don't know that that's a good thing.
Progressive offers more than a great price when you bundle home and auto. We offer round-the-clock protection, which literally means anytime. Coverage from Progressive.
All right. Yeah, I think we got it covered. We got a lot going on. All right, we'll do. Hang tight. Thanks.
BetRivers Online Sportsbook. Download the app today. Breaking down the news with the newsmakers. Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Hey, this is Ken Coleman from the Ken Coleman Show. You can listen to me weeknights from 11 p.m. to midnight on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge.
Start your day with news and newsmakers. Start your day ahead of the traffic, ahead of the weather. Hey, it's Haldane. Join me for Mornings with Brian Haldane, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk 107.3.
The humid haze is out there again this morning. Some sun will be around for the first half of the day today as temperatures climb into the mid-80s. This afternoon, a front will be approaching the area from the northwest.
Okay.
Showers will become widespread by dinner time, and your evening commute may be a little slower than usual today. Showers and storms could pack a punch with brief periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, and frequent lightning. Any showers will start to clear as the sun goes down tonight. It will be muggy heading into Tuesday with a few leftover showers possible in the morning, and then we'll dry out for the rest of the work week.
Not again. .737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome to the show the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, Stephen Waguespack. Stephen Waguespack. Stephen, good morning. Welcome to Garth Brooks Week. How are you?
Oh, Brian, I can't. I'm ready. I got my tickets ready. I got my boots all ready. I'm going to be there down on the floor next weekend and looking forward to it.
Very nice. Yes, this is going to be the longest week. This is like it's kind of like Alabama week in football, but without the bye week in front of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw any of the pictures or photos of the Garth concert at Arkansas last week or this weekend or whatever it was, but he also played in the Arkansas Stadium recently. I think it was this weekend, actually. And I just saw some of the photos, and the stage and him running around. I mean, it looks like he's going to put on you already knew he was going to put on a good show, but now there's photographic evidence of it. So it's going to be awesome.
Very nice. Very nice. Calling Fayetteville a lot less popular of a song.
Boo. Big suey. Boo.
Hey, before we dive in, I was talking to you during the break, and you wanted to pick up where we left off in our Medical Monday segment.
Yeah, if I could, just real quick, because I thought Dr. Felix did a fantastic job of talking about autism and giving some really important information to parents. I just want to piggyback real quick. My wife and I went through something similar. Our middle son, Christopher, is on the spectrum. He's 16 years old. And I just wanted a couple points. One, the early intervention piece is so important for parents. He mentioned some of the things to look for: eye contact, responding to name. If you're not seeing that late in that first year, early in that second year, don't be afraid to go in and get a second opinion or whatever. You're not going to hurt your doctor's feelings. And as a parent, you have to be an advocate. You can call the Emerge Center here and locally in Baton Rouge, or you can push the envelope and maybe go look for a second opinion for a pediatrician. But try to get some of that analysis if your gut's not feeling right. The second thing is there's a program called Early Steps for that age. And if you're a parent and you have an early diagnosis of autism, if you look up the Early Steps program here in Louisiana, they have a fantastic team of therapists that come to the house. They give your kids some of those baseline skills to get ready for pre-K, and it really teaches parents a lot about what to look for. And then lastly, when it comes to the Emerge Center, they do a fantastic job of doing screenings. A lot of times, if you're autism, there could be speech and hearing.
Did we lose Steven? Tell you what, Jake, drop him on. I'm gonna drop him on hold real quick. See if you can't pick up if he's not there. We'll reconnect there. Just make sure he's good to go. And yeah, he was talking about the Emerge Center as part of that. And here, come grab his number and call him right back. Talk about the Emerge Center as part of that. We had Shelton on from the Emerge Center last week as their Project Puzzle's been going on and continues, if I'm not mistaken, this week with a huge raffle Number of really great prizes. Always great to catch up with the folks from the Emerge Center because they're doing things here that we don't see in a lot of other parts of the country. They're doing things here that are it's just remarkable work from start to finish. So that's him calling back on the hotline. It just, like everything, the early detection is the key to the whole thing. Early detection, not the key to the whole thing, but cannot be, you physically can't overstate the importance of it. Steven, sorry, we lost you mid-sentence, man. Whoop, there he is. Steven, we lost you mid-sentence.
Hey, and I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to encourage parents, be an advocate, look out for it. And last thing I would say is don't view it as a death sentence. The truth is our family, my other two boys are going to be better men because of Christopher and the family. My wife and I are better people. He is an absolute joy. There's a lot that children on the autism spectrum can bring to this world and really open eyes of others. And so, it is a life journey, but there are a lot of resources in Baton Rouge to help folks. As a parent, look for the signs and be an advocate for your child because early intervention is key to finding success here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we had the folks from the Emerge Center on last week as Project Puzzle's going on right now, which is kind of their main fundraiser or one of their main fundraisers in a ridiculously great raffle.
Absolutely. And look, this in 2 weeks, they're going to have their Emerge Gala. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to be the MC of that thing. It is a James Bond costume theme. And so if you like to dress like a Bond character and you like to come in and dance to good music and support a good cause, come on out to the Emerge Gala in 2 weeks and have some fun with us. And you can find information on their website at emergela.org.
Standard tux or a white dinner jacket?
Well, that's up to you. You can even go Moonraker.
I was asking you.
An astronaut costume. Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't reveal that in advance.
Come on, man.
Right, there's got to be a big reveal on game day.
I understand. We got a lot going on. We got a lot of business to tend to as well. We're going to get to judicial transparency in just a minute as there are a couple bills moving through. But I wanted to start with the Mississippi River Bridge as last week it looked like things were desperate, if not lost, with the $500 million that was proposed to be set aside as a down payment on the bridge. Was kind of pooped on by legislators. But now we're hearing a number of legislators saying they're going to rebuild that amount through a number of different outlets. It won't be the one big chunk like we thought, but there's still a level of positivity about getting this thing done.
Yeah, and this is where if you've watched the legislative session long enough over the years, you realize there's a pendulum swing to this. There's ups and downs throughout a session. And, right now I would say that the House budget is moving to the Senate side. And there is a generic pot of money you've talked about on your show that's $400 million in it. It's not dedicated to the bridge, but it is inclined to largely go to the bridge. I think a big chunk of that will, in fact, go to the Baton Rouge Bridge. I think there are a couple other bills moving through the session that dedicate some other vehicle sales tax dollars and others that will also cobble together some dollars for that Baton Rouge Bridge. And I think also when the Revenue Estimating Conference meets soon, they're going to find another surplus of probably a couple $100 million, if not more, and some of that may go to the Baton Rouge Bridge. And so I think the biggest key is when we finish session, I am cautiously optimistic there's going to be a healthy investment. I hope it's the $500 million number. It may be just short of that, but I hope it's that number to the Baton Rouge Bridge. I think there'll also be a healthy investment to the Lake Charles Bridge, to 49 South, to completing 49 North, and a few others. And so I do think the story at the end of the session will be some big wins for transportation using these excess federal dollars. I do think the Baton Rouge Bridge will get a lot of momentum. And why it's so important to get that big chunk for Baton Rouge Bridge now in this session is if you want to apply for the federal grants, you have to have it in hand this session in order to qualify for up to about $300 million in federal grants that have to go in early next year. If you don't do it this session, you miss the window for the grant application. So that's why it's so critical to get as close to as humanly possible to that $500 million this year if we want to qualify for the extra federal help that'll be early next year for that. And I think that's going to happen.
I do. There's still a level of cynicism with me about that $400 million, though, because it was put into something. I want to say they came up with an act, and I'm doing this off the top of my head. I don't have the notes in front of me.
Radial or something like that?
Radial. And the AL at the end of radial stands for all Louisiana, which means they're going to divvy this thing down to where it's not enough to get any one thing done. If you've got a pool of money that can do some good, they're going to divvy it up to where it can't do any good.
Your skepticism's justified, man. I'm not trying to say this is a done deal. And I think, look, we're also somewhat skeptical, but I'm also cautiously optimistic. I do think there's an awareness there I think it's growing as the weeks go on. I think DOTD is starting to do a better job of telling the story in the capital of how supporting the Baton Rouge Bridge does not hurt the prospects for the Lake Charles Bridge and others. In fact, that they're almost like a jingle puzzle connected together, and they all lean on each other. So I think the more they do that, the more it gives confidence for those legislators who don't live anywhere near this region, an understanding of why they should support it, and it won't hurt the project in their backyard. And I think that's slowly getting better, and DOT, I think, needs to keep internally explaining the merits of the plan and why it won't hurt other regions. And externally, people like you and me and others need to keep the pressure on, and so that legislators know that leaving this session without a strong financial commitment to the Baton Rouge Bridge is simply not an option.
Is Rick Ward too nice?
No, Rick Ward's doing a good job on this. He's got an ability to work with anyone and everyone in that capital, especially on transportation issues. And this is actually the type of a moment where he's really being effective in there, I think. So I think he's doing a good job of keeping folks at the table, helping get folks more comfortable. And I think every week you're starting to see folks indeed get more comfortable with this investment.
He's swinging for the fences on this one. He is leveraging a lot of his own political future based off of this. And good on him for doing it, because it's the right thing for West Baton Rouge. Absolutely.
Or anywhere like that. I mean, it's really an easy swing, right? Because your constituents have sat on that bridge time and time again over the years. If you live on that West Bank, it's a no-brainer for them. And I think growingly, increasingly here on the East Bank, it's becoming a no-brainer for folks right here. I mean, part of the reason you got such a good listenership is because people are stuck in their cars every morning. And while that may be good for your show, big guy, it sure isn't helping people get to work and get to school on time.
Hey, look, the flip side of that, Stephen, is you open a new bridge and new businesses are going to open, and they'll need a place to advertise as well. So I'll make that trade all day long.
Look at you, making the best of both situations.
Let's talk judicial transparency. What's going on?
Nothing more exciting than judicial transparency, right? Well, look, the big thing is a couple of years ago, we put out some report papers and we did some analysis on our judiciary. What we found is our judiciary has a lot of dollars in investment that's not transparent out there. We have a very heavy judiciary compared to other states. In fact, we've got about, for example, in our appellate courts, we've got 53 appellate court judges. Alabama has 10. Kentucky has 14. So that's very heavy, considering every appellate court judge is about $500,000 a year. And so we push for putting more of the financial information online so that people can see it, and then we can do an analysis as judges retire. Do we need to continue that judge or consolidate it, et cetera? And Ziza Rang, the chairman of the House of Probes Committee, has 2 bills on the floor this week, which are going to try to do some of that. They're going to try to put some of that very transparent budget information out there so we can take account how the dollars are being spent. And it's going to create a task force to try to do an analysis. How heavy is our judicial system? Is it the appropriate amount? Or are there efficiencies and consolidations that can be done over time as retirements come into play that could make us a more effective judiciary? And so I think that's a good dialogue to have. Mm-hmm. We've been very impressed with the number of judges themselves who have come forward and said, look, they're ready to talk more about transparency and to talk more about the future of that judiciary. You got a lot of good judges on the bench who are excited about tackling this issue. And so, every year Z's been kind of a good leader on this, trying to continuously improve. And this week's the next step in that evolution.
We got about 2 minutes left with Stephen Wagerspack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about this Cleo Fields bill, but I've got to allow you some time to talk about. We went through top stories and trending a little while ago, and basically it was all crime. There was no story out of that wasn't about crime, specifically in Capital City, in the Capital City, and wanted to give you just a moment if you wanted to sound off.
Brian, what the hell is wrong with people these days?
Dude.
Every day when you watch what's going on in Baton Rouge, it is horrific events and situations that are becoming so commonplace that it's just becoming, generic noise in the background. And this is a huge problem for Baton Rouge. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at some of the poor education we've delivered to families over the years, we've got too many people who are becoming adults without the skills to know how to hold a job, to be a mentor to their children, to be a good example. I think that's part of it. I think, obviously, from a prosecution and criminal perspective, we're doing something wrong because it is becoming a major topic of conversation that I hear from different businesses about whether they can depend on the future of this city with crime trending the way it is. And so I don't know when the wake up moment is going to happen, but brother, I think we're in it. And I think it's time for businesses, elected officials, nonprofits, whoever it is. We need a literal convening of the minds to figure out how we're going to stem the tide in Baton Rouge, what everyone's role is on improving this crime situation, and get ahead of it before it gets so out of control that we can't turn the tide on the economic development loss we have, the families loss we have, and obviously the human element loss we're going to have with this. So it is a major issue. Every time you read an article on this lately, you don't hear the counter message of those in charge saying, here's how mad we are and here's what we're going to do to fix it. There's almost a silence on the other side, and that is simply not allowable or acceptable. And it's a huge problem, Brian. I would say crime is becoming one of the top tier issues we hear about in this region more than any other issue. And when you're having that, when you can't guarantee the safety of people who want to raise a family or start a business here, it's hard to have a follow-up conversation on taxes and jobs and education after that.
1,000%. We're way long here, but 30 more seconds if I can squeeze them out of you here. How do you have a meeting of the minds not result in paralysis by analysis? Because that seems to be what we always get out of this.
There's only one way to find out. Let's get it all together. Let's have everyone. I think you got a lot of people willing to help and invest and do their part. Mm-hmm. But look, every team needs a quarterback, and we need to have the right plan. You don't need everyone spraying in different directions. If this community is asked to come together for a concerted plan to fix crime in this area, I think you'll have a lot of people ready to roll up their sleeves and write some checks to get it done. But there has to be a plan worth believing in.
Biggest economic development project in Baton Rouge that was announced over the last year has to be Amazon. There were 2 shootings over the weekend within 2 miles of Amazon's project Cortana location. And just eventually, when we start crossing the streams and realizing the effects of one on the other, we'll start to pay attention to all of them. He is Stephen Wagasback, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Joins us every Monday. Appreciate you, man.
Have a great week, man. Talk to you later.
You too. Quick break. We're super long here. Coming back with the Outside In next. I said 2. It might have been 3. Rick Ward's optimism gives me hope, says Troy. Yeah, me too. And he's not like sometimes I ask a question when I already know the answer to it, just so I can have somebody else give the same answer. But no, Rick Ward is not too nice, and he has leveraged his political future on this. And oh, by the way, when he's successful, that dude is going to be a friggin' superstar. Oh, by the way. What, did you delete it? Oh, it's late. Like, didn't we want to move on from it? LSU, Missouri already played. This is out of date. Not now. It's way too far into it now. Oh, all right. Yeah, no biggie. It's all good. Let's see. What can we? Oh, back to the Moral Dilemma Monday. Chris, who responded on Twitter, who was asking about what if the whole thing is online. Chris says, yeah, maybe I'm lucky, but I've had pretty good results as a result of the dreaded face-to-face conversation. I love the face-to-face conversation.
20 minutes Highland Road to the Mississippi River Bridge. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
.756 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Stephen Wagasback for hopping on board. We ran super long there, which means I don't want to run out of time. Let's step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. It's time for the Outside In.
Really explore space this time. I mean, really. Yeah. Explore the space.
The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake. With 6 locations and extended hours to fit your needs, BRPT Lake has got you covered. Schedule online now at brptlake.com. The Outside In is coming your way now.
Get out of this town. Yeah, and go where? Where are we going to go?
We're going to start off down in New Orleans. You heard the story from Jeff Palermo in our news. The U.S. Coast Guard suspended their search for 3 children who apparently vanished in the Mississippi River in the New Orleans area Saturday. Officials said Sunday morning the 3 missing kids, an 8-year-old girl, a 14-year-old girl, and a 15-year-old boy, were last seen entering the water near the Crescent City Connection Bridge before Sunday. Coast Guard put it at a helicopter and multiple boat crews. They had to make the heartbreaking decision to call off the search last night. Next stop, Assumption Parish. State police are investigating a shooting involving at least one Assumption Parish Sheriff's deputy early Sunday morning. The incident was reported just after 7:30 a.m. on Highway 398 near Labadeville. Troopers said at least one person was taken to a hospital after the shooting. The extent of their injuries is unknown. Back to the New Orleans area, this time at Jefferson Parish. A man died overnight Friday night and a Saturday after he crashed and flipped his vehicle while fleeing police. State police said the single vehicle crash happened shortly after 1 a.m. Saturday on Highway 90 near Circle West Drive in Bridge City. Frederick Eric Walter, 51 years old, was killed in the incident. Troopers said Walter was driving west on 90 in West Wego when he was stopped by a city police officer. During the stop, Walter allegedly sped away, initiating the pursuit. Walter continued west on the highway, eventually lost control of his vehicle. His car ran off the right side of the road, flipping several times. Investigators said Walter was not wearing a seatbelt, was ejected from the vehicle, and died at the scene. Closing out in Ascension Parish, nearly 2,000 Entergy customers were without power, and a stretch of Highway 73 was closed Friday night after a fatal crash that damaged a utility pole. State police said the single vehicle crash happened shortly before 10 p.m. Friday on Highway 73, south of Highway 61, south of Airline. The crash claimed the life of 35-year-old John Davies. Investigators report Davies was traveling north on 73 in a pickup truck when he ran off the road, crashing into a utility pole. Davies was not wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash, was ejected from the vehicle. He did die at the scene. Entergy officials said it took several hours for crews to make repairs and restore power to the Prairieville area. And that is the Outside In. We are due up for a quick break. Going to check news here at the top of the hour. We'll visit CBS News when we come back. Jake takes us back in time with This Day in History next. Ooh. Oh, my word.
responded with dozens of artillery shells aimed at targets in Lebanon. There were no reports of injuries. Linda Gradstein for CBS News, Jerusalem.
The Supreme Court hears arguments today in the case of a former assistant coach in Washington state who lost his job for praying on the field after high school football games. Joe Kennedy cites his First Amendment rights.
They're telling me where I can actually practice my faith, and everybody should be able to practice their faith.
Yeah.
The Texas Board of Pardons and Parole is expected to make a recommendation to the governor today in the case of Melissa Lucio, a mother set to be executed this week for killing one of her children. Her supporters held rallies in
Yeah.
cities over the weekend. Growing wildfires in the West have destroyed hundreds of buildings and killed a volunteer fire spotter in Nebraska. WCBS meteorologist Craig Allen has an update.
New fire weather watches are being issued for portions of Colorado as well as from western sections of Kansas on up into Nebraska.
Americans are bouncing around from one job to another and reaping the financial rewards. CBS's Christopher Cruz.
A ZipRecruiter survey provided to the Wall Street Journal shows about 64% of those changed jobs of them are earning at least 50% more.
S&P futures down 20. This is CBS News.
Right. I mean, I've seen people a little bit.
There's always something new under the sun. CBS Mornings. Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Do you know what people see when Google you?
No, he gonna be on the phone.
And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the
Probably the phone as well, especially since we don't have
with your search results. Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender is one of the most trusted names in online reputation recruitment.
Senate Bill 305.
Decade of experience fixing people's search results, and we can help you too using cutting-edge approaches. Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.
Scusi.
401-6681 for free advice on your situation. That's 800-401-6681.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Yankee Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shopbills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit ShopBillsTire.com to learn more. We have some major congestion on the Mississippi River Bridge right now. It's almost a 20-minute backup from the bridge to the 1012 split. Also, I-12 eastbound is still closed at Essen Lane in the 1012 split due to that earlier fire involving an 18-wheeler. The fire is put out, but the road is still closed at this time. You can use I-10 to get off at Essen Lane, then use Essen to get back onto I-12 to avoid that closure. Lots of congestion on our interstate systems as well. You can expect a drive time of about 30 minutes, Cuban Road to the 1012 split. And you can expect around 30 minutes I-10 westbound from Highland Road to the Mississippi River Bridge. That's the latest from the Guarantee Media Traffic Center, where reports are always brought to you by Shawbill. I'm Taylor Sharp reporting.
The humid haze is out there again this morning. Some sun will be around for the first half of the day today as temperatures climb into the mid-80s. This afternoon, a front will be approaching the area from the northwest. Showers will become widespread by dinner time, and your evening commute may be moving a little slower than usual.
Scusi.
Showers and storms could pack a punch with brief periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, and frequent lightning. Any showers will start to clear as the sun goes down tonight. It will be muggy heading into Tuesday with a few leftover showers possible in the morning, and then we'll dry out for the rest of the work week.
The hell? Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake producing. Got a busy Hour 3 this hour. I do want to stop for a second and thank those who have already joined the show. That would be Richard Condon, who was on in the first hour. That would be Dr. Stephen Felix talking autism on our Medical Monday segment. And that would be Stephen Wagasback in our weekly visit with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. All of those segments, along with the rest of the show, are always available on demand at talk1073.com shortly after the show is over with. All right, this hour going to be a busy hour as well. We're talking legislature with Franklin Foyle, specifically SB 305. Mr. 305. SB 305 with Franklin Foyle. What is this? Well, just to kind of give you a little bit of just the name of it within the digest, the Louisiana True Origin of Digital Goods Act. I read this thing from start to finish, and it really feels like it's defining the owners of NFTs, which would be important in the near future. But when I talk with Franklin about it, it goes so much broader than that. In fact, NFTs weren't even in his thought process of this. It does involve crypto, but it for completely different reasons. I can't wait to dive into this in just a minute. Also this hour, Matt Moscona going to join us at 8:40. Going to recap the spring game, which if you watched the spring game, if you were at the spring game, hop on YouTube and let me know how you liked it. Different scoring system. You didn't have two teams split into two. You just had all offense, all defense, and set up the scoring to where the defense would be able to accumulate points as well. What were your takeaways from the spring game? I was producing it on the radio side, so I didn't get to see the whole thing. The monitor in the studio had the baseball game going on as well. So, my view of the game was through the voices of Gordy Rush, Doug Morrow, and Jacob Hester. So, anyway, let me know what you thought of the spring game. Post it up on our YouTube channel, Mornings with Brian Haldane. We're live every single day, and go ahead and subscribe while you're there. All right. Right now is the part of the show where we go back in time. Jake brings you This Day in History.
Who's coming with? We have to go back, Kate. We have to go back. Say, kids, what time is it?
Yes, sir. It is time for This Day in History. Happy to be back on the show. We're going to be kicking things off in 1792. It was the first time the guillotine was used in France. They executed highwayman Nicolas Pelletier.
Cool!
In 1862, it was the capture of New Orleans, Louisiana by the Union under Flag Officer Farragut. 1901. New York becomes the first state requiring automobile license plates. It was a $1 fee.
Okay.
Yeah, really breaking the bank there. 1945.
Well, $1901.
Well, yeah, sure. That's me. Come on. 1945. Soviet forces complete their encirclement of Berlin, cutting off all access points west of the German capital. It was raising the flag over the Reichstag. You look puzzled.
No, keep going.
1962, the U.S. Ranger spacecraft crash lands on the moon.
Crash lands on the moon?
Yeah, crash lands.
Okay.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
2009, the NFL Draft. Georgia quarterback Matthew Stafford was the first pick by the Detroit Lions. How'd that go, Brian?
Not great for the Lions, but nothing ever does go well for the Lions. It worked out well for Matt Stafford. Just a short 13 years later, he'd be a Super Bowl champion.
Absolutely. And 10 years later, 2019, Microsoft becomes the third U.S. firm to be listed with a market worth of $1 trillion after Apple and Amazon. That is all the events. Let's get to the
Suez
birthdays.
Canal got underway. They started digging the Suez Canal this day in 1859.
Huh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that one popped up in my little email.
Anything else?
No, just a whole lot of birthdays.
Birthdays. Al Pacino turns 82.
Yep.
Johan Cruyff was born on this day in 1947, and Tim Duncan turns 46. The big fundamental, as I like to call him. You got anything for me?
Yeah, I got a couple more. Former Panthers running back D'Angelo Williams, born on this day in 1983. Joe Buck, 1969. Adam Silver, born on this day in 1962. The NBA Commissioner Snoke. And Renee Zellweger is 53 years old as of today.
Very nice. Happy birthday to all those mentioned. One death to talk about. John Havlicek was he unfortunately passed on this day in 2019. Let's get to the holidays.
Well, you also got this day in 1995, Ginger Rogers passed away, and this day in 2002, Lisa Left Eye Lopes passed away. Oh.
Rest in peace to all those mentioned. First up for holidays, it is National Telephone Day. Not sure why, but it's also National Hug a Plumber Day. Hopefully not while they're working. That'd be inconvenient, but
this is one of those ones that was the impetus behind the "When do you blast a company on social media?" question. Yeah. Yeah. I got some plumbing work needs to be done, and they came out 3 weeks ago and disappeared. So we've been narrowed down to one bathroom for our family of 5.
That's tough. And finally, the last holiday to talk about, it is National Lingerie Day. That is this day in history.
Now, see, National Plumbers and Lingerie Day would be just an awful day, which is why you don't want to cross those streams.
Sounds like
ever.
one heck of a Wednesday evening.
No. We got to talk with Franklin Foyle in just a little bit. He's got a lot going on during the legislative session that has piqued my interest. We will talk to him in just a little bit. Got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. It is Garth Brooks week, which means folks are going to be tailgating on campus Saturday, which means if you're headed out to campus Saturday to see the Garth Brooks show, swing by Mathern's. They're going to have you covered. They got you all set up. The craft beer selection is among the best in Baton Rouge, if not the best in Baton Rouge. They'll have not just craft beer, but all the normal beer as well, and all the snacks, all the food. You need to grab some to-go stuff on game day, or I should say concert day. Mathern's is your headquarters. They're on Nicholson, in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It's the corner of Nicholson and Skip Burtman Drive. They are right across the street from Tiger Stadium. It's going to be happening. It's going to go down on Saturday for sure. Mathern's is your tailgate headquarters, not just for game day, but for Garth Brooks Day as well. We got Franklin Foyle coming up next. If I make it all the way to 9 o'clock without throwing up again, I'll be impressed. 3 times is enough for one morning. Snap.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answers at MurphyLawFirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money on the table. Visit MurphyLawFirm.com or call me, Attorney Peyton Murphy, at 928-8800. Main office, Baton Rouge.
I've got one delivery app on my phone, and that is Waiter. They are a Louisiana-based delivery service, and I love that they have
Already then.
GatorWorks believes that your website should be the perfect full-time salesperson, one that always looks sharp, never says the wrong thing, and is always available. If your website is creating more leads for your business, what is it doing? Visit our salesperson at GatorWorks.net.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Ganty Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shop Bills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit ShopBillsTire.com to learn more. I-12 eastbound at the 1012 split is still closed. We had that earlier vehicle fire involving a fully engulfed
All right, let's dive in here. Hey, can you? Well, I guess we don't have time for a bumper here. Pitbull, shut it down, clean version. Yeah. It is the clean version, right? It's very important. Okay. Play it on YouTube, too.
Mr. 305, I want everybody to get ready. Cause we about to snake shut down.
816, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Never ever thought I'd be calling State Senator Franklin Foyle Mr. 305, but he's got Senate Bill 305, and that's what we're talking about this morning. Franklin, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brian. Good to talk with you this morning.
Always glad to have you on. Always glad to be. You put out some stuff every single session that I missed it the first time around, and about midway through, I'm like, "Dadgum, that's kind of brilliant." So that's what Senate Bill 305 is this time around, and I had to get you back on to talk about it. The Louisiana True Origin of Digital Goods Act. Tell me all about it, please.
Sure. That bill actually came to me at the request of some people who represent the Recording Industry Association of America. And they are actually trying to do this around the country to get state legislatures to pass this legislation, which require, if you're going to have digital goods, specifically music or movies or other things, you would have to put on the site who you are and how you can be contacted and so forth, so the consumer will know that this is actually the true origin or the true owner of the product. And if you don't do that, then the law allows you to go to court and file a civil action to get an injunction to stop them from doing what they're doing.
Okay, how do we police this as far as within the state is concerned? Because this sounds like it would be pretty open to being outside of Louisiana as well.
It would, and that could be a challenge, especially if you have people in foreign sites. But if you have some of the hosting here, possibly. Those might be some ways you can attack it. But, right now this is sort of new territory and sort of a national effort to try to get something at least in place. But you're right, it could have some challenges, but nevertheless, we're hoping it would also deter bad actors.
What got you on this path? What made you want to dive into this?
Well, it's really, in my opinion, it's a consumer friendly or consumer protection type of plan. And so I have done work in the past, both with the music industry and the movie industry, to try to help them as far as bringing their products and for protecting our consumers from getting ripped off. And so that's really what got my interest. And you had asked me about NFTs, which I really did not know much about, but I've learned something about them since you and I spoke last.
Okay, that's where I was taking this, because as I was reading this seems like it's tailor-made to protect the ownership of NFTs.
Yeah, and I think, and to be honest with you, I wish I could take credit for that, but that was not my original intent when I brought this forward. I mean, once again, this, as a lot of my ideas they come from other people, and this was from the movie and music industry. But I think it fits in nicely, and it might be something that will, that we can expand and make it work as NFTs become more prevalent here. And like I said, I'm still learning about NFTs as well. It took me a long time to learn about cryptocurrency, and now we're going to NFTs. It sort of seems like the next step. It's different, but it's sort of the same concept.
This was brought to you by folks in the movie and music industries. What were the problems they were experiencing that started this?
Well, mainly you would have these websites that would pirate, the music, and would be, selling it for people to go in and download it. And so really it was ripping off the artists, number one, and then number two, the consumers would go in and not necessarily get what they thought they would get. For example, instead of Billy Joel, it might be Billy Joe, and so that's what piqued my interest. And look, I try to when I bring legislation, I try to bring legislation that's going to make things easier for people in their lives. I try to make things. That's what I look for.
We're talking with State Senator Franklin Foyle about SB 305, which is the Louisiana True Origin of Digital Goods Act. What's the reception been of this? Because I know every once in a while a few things can go over the legislature's collective head. This one feels like it's pretty straightforward, but how's the reception been?
So far, so good. We went to committee last week. We went to the, I think it was in the Commerce Committee last week, And we did have a few questions and explained, what we were trying to do and what our goals were, and generally had a good reception, and we were able to pass it out. It'll be up on the, actually, I think it's up on the Senate floor this week. I have to double check that. I lose track of the legislation at times because things are moving so fast these days. But so far so good. Really, the only questions we got were like you raised. How are you going to enforce that? And that is an open question. But once again, if you don't have anything on the books, you can't even start trying to enforce protecting these assets.
Yeah, the enforcement's going to get a little bit hairy as everything is online, to be sure. And I'm sure those that have the wherewithal to create copies, have the wherewithal to pirate anything, would be able to disguise or mask themselves a little bit as well. You mentioned crypto. Does this have a tie-in with the crypto transactions as well?
Well, not necessarily, but when I looked, when I looked at NFTs more, it sort of reminded me of crypto. When crypto first came out, I had a hard time sort of understanding why people would want to buy crypto, and what it was about. And I've learned actually a lot more about crypto and understand it better. And sort of the same thing with NFTs. It piqued my interest once I started looking at it more. What's the value? Why would people want to buy it? And it's all kinds of opportunities, I guess, of things people can create.
We've got State Senator Franklin Foyle with us. Hey, Franklin, while I've got you here, you mind if we talk about one of your other bills as well?
Sure.
This is one that I know you've walked down the path before. This would be requiring each public school, including charter schools, to adopt policies relative to the installation and operation of cameras that record both video and audio in special ed classrooms. What's the latest on this bill? Because I know this one is very near and dear to your heart and would impact a lot of families in Louisiana.
It really does, and the parents who are advocating for it, it is so important to have this potential safeguard in the classroom. We actually passed it out of the Senate fairly easily, got a lot of support, in fact, unanimous out of the Senate a few weeks ago. It's now over in the House. And I brought this bill because I had parents that came to me and said, look, we have a child, they're in a self-contained special ed classroom, and we're worried that, if something happens to the child, we have no way to have a safeguard like a camera would provide. And so it's not necessarily that there's a teacher that's causing these problems. We're not saying that. But it could be another student in the class. And so parents just want to have this safeguard. It also protects a teacher from wrongfully being accused of doing something wrong. So this bill basically puts a deadline and says that all school systems by the end of this December would have to have a policy in place to allow parents, if they would like this camera in the classroom, to have it installed.
I've been curious about the narrative surrounding this bill. How has the discussion developed, and how has this been pitched? Because it does feel like it is a protector for both students and teachers as well, in the same vein that body cameras can protect the police officers who are doing things the right way.
You're exactly right. And this came to me from parents who unfortunately had some bad real-life stories of their child who had either some bullying situations or even injuries while they were in the classroom. And you got to remember, in these special ed, self-contained classrooms, many of these kids can't even verbalize they can't advocate for themselves. And so that's what this came about. And these parents, it's really important for them to have this safeguard. And I tell the teachers, most are receptive, and most school systems are receptive. But if they have hesitation, I say, look, this protects everyone.
Where does the money come from for the cameras?
Well, the money would be funded locally for the cameras, as it is right now, or the school systems could apply for grants, or you could even get charitable contributions. So there are multiple avenues to do that. We're trying to let each school system decide how they want to fund it, but I'm providing as many resources as I can to give them options.
State Senator Franklin Foyle, our guest for another couple of minutes. Senator Foyle, got to broaden things out a little bit. Want to ask you about a couple of the more hot-button topics of the session as it wears on, namely a new Mississippi River Bridge. We've talked about this a lot on the House side, as that $500 million the governor wanted to invest in the bridge is kind of its purpose has pivoted, to be sure. From the Senate side, what are we looking at in this discussion?
Well, as you know, and you and I have spoken about this, that is my number one priority as far as infrastructure this session. And it's been for a while, but we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with all of this federal funding and surplus money to actually get this done. But we have to put a large amount of money aside to show that we're serious to get the ball rolling on this project. So what the House did is not as bad as some people think it might be. They did not specifically keep it in a fund just for Mississippi River Bridge, but they put it in they still put it in a fund. They didn't allocate it to any other projects, and the fund is for infrastructure. So it's going to be up to us, myself and others in the Senate, to make sure that we can use as much of that money or make sure that it's protected for the new Mississippi River Bridge. But it's vital to our whole structure of our state. I mean, everything goes through Baton Rouge on I-10 and knows what a nightmare it is.
This fund, though, is supposed to be providing funds for projects all over Louisiana. In fact, the last two letters in the acronym stand for All Louisiana. Hey, how do we keep this from being diluted down to where it's not effective dollars?
Well, it's simply numbers. Those of us in the Senate that support this, especially those of us from this area, have to stand up and advocate for this, and that's how it works. And look, the bottom line is, even though it's in Baton Rouge, this affects the whole United States. It affects our supply chain. It affects evacuation routes. It's so critically important. So we're going to work together not only here locally, but also with other delegations who also have big projects. And you know, they need to help us, and we're going to help them. Lake Charles needs a bridge. We need Lake Charles to help us get our bridge.
And the frustrating thing there is this money wasn't going to affect Lake Charles Bridge's funding either.
That's right. That's right. That's why at the end of the day, we have to come together collectively. And, you know, once again, not everyone's going to be on board. There's some people who, you know, unfortunately don't see the big picture, or it's just, or they may see it, but they don't want to work with us on it. But for the most part, we've got strong leadership here in Baton Rouge. And I think that ultimately both the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, who's from our area, by the way, will help us get this done at the end of the day.
Not just from our area, but more specifically from right where that bridge is going to land on this side, to be sure, if you're talking about Speaker Schexnayder.
I am. You're right. He's from Ascension Parish. And that's been the frustration, Brian, getting a location for the bridge. I'm frustrated that hasn't happened quicker, but I've been told in May we will supposedly be getting 3 locations identified down from 10. And so I think that'll really help us as we negotiate forward once we show some real progress.
Yeah, I have a level of concern that if there's any excuse left on the table, those who can find an excuse for a reason to vote no, find an excuse to vote no. If there's anything out there at all, they're going to cling to that no matter how minute that excuse might be. And 3 locations is not 1 location, so 3 locations is no location.
Yeah, but the good news is I think the 3 locations will be pretty close to each other from what I've looked at. It looks like either Plaquemine and Bruley on one side, and then across the river on Nicholson, somewhere near the Ascension, East Baton Rouge Parish line. So at least I think it's going to be close. But you're right. We've got to just keep the pressure on to get this done.
Absolutely. He is State Senator Franklin Foyle. I always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you for hopping on board this morning.
Thanks, Brian. Take care. Bye-bye.
You do the same. Senator Foyle, he likes to be in studio, and I love when he comes in studio, but he had committee meetings all morning. I appreciate him squeezing us in. It is a busy, busy time out of the state legislature. I know from the outside looking in, now's the time where we've been introduced to everything, and now that we've read 305, we've been introduced to that as well. But we've been introduced to everything. A lot of things are making their way through the process, and we're starting to see what's gaining heat along the way as well. Well, this is when the sausage is getting made. We got all the big introductions, and we'll have all the great conclusions later on. Right now is that middle third of the novel, if you will. And this is where all the behind-the-scenes work is getting done. So I appreciate the state senator for carving out a little bit of his time this morning. Doing my level best not to let the cynicism rule the day, though. It should be noted. Like, I'm doing my level best to be positive about this. Although anybody who has followed Louisiana politics for any period of time, be down in the gutter with me. This is where, this is where this is why we can't have nice things. Nope. Staying above board. And we'll continue to follow it. We'll continue to report on it. We'll continue to talk to the key players that are involved in it. But we'll keep a positive, rosy outlook. Speaking of positive, rosy outlooks, how about the spring game last Saturday and the path that LSU football is on? Matt Moscona hosts After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN, and he joins us next. Oh. Baby, I know how to fly. Oh, I forgot. Clinton Sparks was the DJ on that one. That guy disappeared quickly. What was his show called? Get Familiar? Nothing hold me down. Baby, I know how to fly. $8:40 Wednesday. How would you like to have a writer for the Family Guy on? Gary Janetti. Confirmed. So we are still having a props meeting. Yeah. No? Okay. Then maybe I'll work on a Cleveland Brown impression. Figure most would either go with Peter or Stewie. Yeah. We got to find a way to get someone named Meg involved in the show, just so as I'm going into the interview, I just, shut up, Meg. I want to find, I don't know how long he's been a writer for the Family Guy. They've had a lot of turnover in the writing staff, but it hasn't dropped off, right? But what I want to find out is, like, was he, if anybody who was there from the beginning, what we saw with Family Guy was the first time that public opinion overtook the brain trusts at the network. Public opinion overtook everything because Family Guy got canceled. They went too far with When I Wish Upon a Jew. Yeah. But the number of people who went out and bought the DVDs and the number of people who were finding it online back before, I mean, we're talking like 2000, 2001. You didn't have the Hulus of the world yet. But the overwhelming demand, and the repeats on FX, they brought the damn show out of retirement. Yo.
Whether you're headed to work, school, or to see the Tigers play, your best option for everything from a hot lunch to knocking out the entire grocery list is Mathern's on Nicholson across from Tiger Stadium. With
I told him 8:40. You have his number? Okay. Where's Burgess at? Dartmoor. Burgess is the other side of Sherwood. Okay. Can't hold me down. Maybe I know how to fly. Catchphrase, Sam. Catchphrase, not catch line.
Take a deeper dive into the stories that are important to you with the Fox News Rundown. Weekday mornings at 9 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Okay. .837 Talk 107.3 FM and WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Give me just a second, y'all. I got myself into something stupid here, so hang tight. I screwed up. Time to look at our forecast as it's going to rain today. Getting this to reopen here. All right, there we go. We are looking at a very significant chance of rain today. In fact, it is a 95% chance of rain throughout the day today. Now, how is that going to play out? Well, it's not until later on. Looks like around 2 p.m. is when the chance of rain starts. We got a 40% chance of rain at 2, escalating up to a 90% chance of rain by 5 p.m., and that's going to stick with us until late into the evening. It looks like by midnight we should be through with the lightning portion, thunder and lightning portion of the storm, and just some light rain until tomorrow morning. This is not exactly going to cool things off a whole lot the way we've been seeing with that pattern over the last few weeks, but it is going to cool things off a little bit. Here's my example. Today's high is 85. Tomorrow's high is 76, but we're right back into the 80s by Thursday. Right now, we're at 75 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. So, Saturday was LSU's spring game. Bit of a different format, bit of a different scoring format, to be sure. Joining us now to talk about it and break it down a little bit is the host of After Further Review, Matt Moscona. Matt, how are you, sir?
Great. Still trying to compute the red zone stop for a field goal, which netted 3 points for the defense, or something like that. I don't get it.
If you just looked at the headline the next day and saw 59-31, you've got to be asking yourself, what was the over?
Or if it was like traditional defensive scoring, man, these quarterbacks. Oh, no.
I mean, yeah, Brennan must have put on a show. Actually, Brennan wasn't bad. 11 for 77 on the day. Garrett Nussmeier might have been a bit of a surprise. He seems to be in the running. Are we looking at a 3-quarterback battle?
So I don't honestly believe so. The way that I've kind of said it, Brain, is you know how when it's political season or election season and there's all these straw polls and it's like, are you more or less likely to vote for candidate A based on his feeling or her feeling on issue X, Y, or Z, right? Like, once you get behind the curtain, you only get one vote.
Right.
Like, and so all that stuff kind of goes out the window. And we could talk about how Garrett Nussmeier has looked steady and maybe was the most consistent throughout spring. And the reality is, when the season comes and you tee it up and kick it off for real Labor Day weekend against Florida State, they're either going to play the guy who's been around for 6 years or the guy that started 30 games at Arizona State. Like, that's just the reality of it. I'm excited about Nussmeier. I'm excited about his potential in the future. But if you're Brian Kelly, like, this isn't a decision that's going to be made there. It's going to be one of the two veteran guys.
So, putting it in political terms, Garrett Nussmeier is the Bernie Sanders of the crew.
I don't get the reference, but
Okay.
but you know that. Hopefully, your audience does, but you know me well enough to know that I don't get the reference.
Yeah, I do. I know. So your takeaways from the game were what?
I think that a couple of things that we thought going in were confirmed. I think LSU's wide receivers, even without Kayshon Boutte, are really good, and that's going to be the strength of the offensive unit. And I think the defensive line has a bunch of monsters on it. Mason Smith looks like he is ready for an all-SEC, potential All-American caliber type season. So I think they're really, really good in those two spots. That's the strengths on both sides of the ball. A lot of hype around Greg Penn at linebacker, and he kind of flashed. I mean, he looks like he could be, the next one in a long line of guys that have, been 100-tackle guys that were all SEC players and go on to good NFL careers. Some of those things, is kind of what you look for, when they wrap up spring. Will Campbell held his own at left tackle. But, Brandon, they still just have some real questions. Who is going to be the quarterback? How is the offensive line going to shuffle out? Do you have depth at linebacker? Are you confident at cornerback? I think those are a lot of questions Brian Kelly and staff still have to answer before they're ready to play for real.
All right, well, let's start with the quarterback position. Is this a matter of no matter who LSU goes with, you can feel comfortable with, or is there a serious level of concern there? Between Brennan and Daniels specifically.
Yeah, so the serious level of concern thing, I would have been there if you were forced to play someone who's never played. You're choosing between two really veteran options. And, we've seen Jaden Daniels win games on a major stage before as a starting quarterback. And Brian Kelly was super complimentary of Miles Brennan this weekend, saying, I know he's going to get us in the right look. He's going to make the right decision with the football. That's just what you have when you have a veteran guy. So I wouldn't say it's a serious level of concern because you have two really good options there. I'm not telling you that they're going to be Bryce Young or Joe Burrow and win a Heisman, but those are two guys that can win you football games.
Cornerback position is one that I think the level of concern might be a little bit higher because this is one that is LSU's bread and butter.
Has been for a long time. But when you feel like you have to go hit the transfer portal as hard as they did for cornerbacks, it tells you their level of concern. You added two guys in Jarek Bernard-Converse and Mekhi Gardner from Oklahoma State and ULL, respectively. Bernard-Converse breaks a bone in his foot, and he misses most of spring. He'll be fine for the season, but that happens, and they immediately feel like they have to go out and add the cornerback from Ohio State, Sevin Banks. It goes to show you they're concerned about their depth, and it's so strange, Brain, because if you had Elias Ricks and Dwight McGlothern, two guys that are going to be high NFL draft picks and guys that would have given you a tremendous amount of confidence going into this season at that spot. But the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away. Yeah. You've been able to rebuild your offensive line because of the portal, but your cornerback room got gutted because of it as well.
Okay, I ask you that to lead up to this. A complete changing of the guard at LSU, a complete change of regime, and is it time, as an LSU fan, that maybe we're not fixated on DBU anymore and we're looking at being that much better at so many other positions that we don't have to fixate on DBU?
Yeah, I don't think everybody's going to be ready to give up that moniker just yet. And I would say let's see how this new staff recruits. The whole, Corey Raymond, listen, LSU had great defensive backs before Corey Raymond showed up, but he spent a decade recruiting the best defensive backs in high school football, getting them to LSU, and then developing them into high NFL draft picks. Mm-hmm. And so many guys came here because of Corey Raymond. So I'm more interested in that spot to see how Kerry Cooks and Robert Steeples continue to recruit that position if they're able to keep landing the best players in the country, or if you start to see those guys go to Gainesville and you'll follow Corey Raymond to Florida. That's going to be the bigger interest there. But one more thing on that, Brain, Louisiana produces great defensive backs. It's a spot where this state has been very rich and talent laden over the years. So in some respects, if you put the fence up around the state and get the best players to stay home, you should still be very good there.
Okay, so that was kind of the impetus of the question is the university and the moniker DBU bigger than just Corey Raymond?
I think it absolutely can be, because you had great players at those positions before Corey Raymond, but he built the throne, right? I mean, he was the godfather of the whole DBU movement. And listen, we could point out LaRon Landry and Corey Webster and a lot of great players before Corey Raymond. But the onus is going to be on the staff to make sure they recruit the state to keep guys like Morris Claiborne, Tyrann Mathieu, to keep them home and keep them at LSU.
Got about 2.5 minutes left with Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review. We're talking about LSU's spring game. Matt, let's talk about the vibe of the game, the overall, the way it was set up, and those that came to town to see it. A bit of a different feel in Tiger Stadium for the spring game.
Look, there's some people who like to flex and flaunt, or I should say people, there's some programs that like to flex and flaunt about attendance at spring games. I've always said, Brain, if you are a program, by the way, Drew's about to get out of the car, so I'm about to get interrupted here momentarily. But, hey, Brian. Yes, brace is off. Sorry. And I'm doing a radio interview, so they're all here. Drew, get out the car. Bye, bud. Have a good day. All right, sorry about that.
All good,
Your whole
brother.
audience got to hear me do dad stuff.
It's all good.
What did you ask me? Attendance. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of fan bases that love to flex and flaunt about spring game attendance. I actually think that's more of a condemnation on your town if there's nothing else to do on a beautiful April Saturday than watch practice. Like, go to French Quarter Fest. Go to Zurich. Go watch a 3-game baseball series out at the box. Go to a crawfish boil. Do anything but watch football practice. I mean, if you want to go, great. But if there were 100,000 people in Tiger Stadium on Saturday, I'd have been like, man, this feels like what Norman, Oklahoma is doing right now. Yeah. Like, I get why OU had 90,000 people at their spring game. Here, come on, man. Like, there's more to do.
Oh, no, yeah, you did have a 3-game set going on in the box. Conference baseball going on in the box. You had the Baton Rouge Blues Fest going on downtown. I was more speaking to the level of recruits and alumni that were in the building.
Okay. Yeah, it was awesome to see Burrow there, namely. Look, his star is going to continue to shine brightly. I think we all realize that. I mean, a second-year player, I think the entirety of the NFL and the football-loving world is believing in Joe Burrow now. Like, they're seeing what we all got to see in 2019 about just how he's wired differently. You need that guy to be a champion of your program. You need that guy to be involved and to continue to wear the LSU across his chest because, man, being able to claim Burrow is, in so many ways, especially in recruiting, just going to be massive for this program moving forward. I mean, it just is, because he's about to go on about a decade-plus long run of owning the NFL, of being one of the faces of the NFL. And yes, they need that relationship to be very good. So it was great to see that it appears that it is.
No, absolutely. Every connection, every meeting, every Instagram post that's available, we need to cling to it. In the meanwhile, he is Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review. We'll hear you this afternoon, brother.
All right, Brian. Thanks. You're fired.
Saw that coming. For those that don't know, you know what? I'll talk about it after the break. We've got Your Money Now covered your way in just a minute. Going to close it out next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. You got me. All right. Your Money Now. Quick check of traffic. We're closing it out next here on Talk 107.3. Snuck it in under the wire. I am so done.
SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month.
Not in perfect health? Don't worry.
SelectQuote found Tanya, 40, who has type 2 diabetes, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
We shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. For your free quote, call 1-800-714-6633. That's 1-800-714-6633. Or go to selectquote.com. That's 1-800-714-6633. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
How do you choose the right attorney? I give you the answers at murphylawfirm.com. Don't allow insurance companies to take advantage of you. Make the right decision. Don't leave money on the table. Visit murphylawfirm.com or call me, attorney Peyton Murphy, at 928-8800. Main office, Baton Rouge.
No need to apologize.
For First South Farm Credit. Louisiana is called Sportsman's Paradise for a reason. Our state has so much to offer when it comes to hunting property and rural real estate. And First South Farm Credit is here to offer financing for that rural property.
All right.
So if you're looking to purchase or refinance land, do what I did and go with the home team. First South Farm Credit. Find them online at firstsouthland.com. Equal housing lender.
Download the all-new Talk 1073 mobile app, brought to you by Gregory Ricks and Associates. Listen live, find out what you missed on demand, and even set an alarm to wake up and listen. The Talk 1073 mobile app is brought to you by Gregory Ricks and Associates.
Renaissance Hotel is your go-to spot when hosting an event in Baton Rouge. The convenient location, plenty of complimentary parking, and flexible space is ready to bring your event to life. Whether you're planning a redo for a missed wedding this spring or looking ahead to a holiday party for your office, the event space allows for fun while remaining socially distant. And the best part, there's even an option for your guests to take the elevator home at the end of the night.
I'm assuming everybody who subscribes and is watching on YouTube already knows the backstory behind Matt firing me. By the way, could you tell who Matt favors to be the starting quarterback? The way he describes it as if it's an open choice, but gives you who the clear favorite is in his mind. The guy who's been around for 6 years, or the guy who's got 34 starts. Little bit of a difference there. Speaking of not getting the reference, there is no way on this or any other planet that Franklin Foyle knows who Mr. 305 is. Okay, another homemade. Okay, I'm skipping this story altogether. I'm off it. I'm done with it. I don't need it.
I'm Taylor Sharp in the Canty Media Traffic Center. Brought to you by Shop Bills, where you can get up to $160 with the purchase of 4 eligible Firestone tires. Visit shopbillstire.com.
Yep.
The left 2 lanes are open eastbound. The right lane, however, is still blocked. This is due to that earlier vehicle fire involving a fully engulfed 18-wheeler. At one point, traffic was backed up all the way to the Mississippi River Bridge. We are still seeing some delays.
Thursday's notes. Why do I still have these?
2 new accidents to report. However, they are both off the roadway. The first one, College Drive near Constitution Avenue, and the second, Florida Boulevard near Sherwood Forest Boulevard. Again, they are both off the roadway, so no lanes of travel are blocked, and backup should be.
That one carries over to tomorrow as well. Just about got it done. Any last thoughts on Moral Dilemma Monday before we get out of here? Anybody you want to put on blast? Anybody you were going to drive through for over an hour and a half of your weekend between 4 different locations? like you just want to tell the owner. If you don't care, tell me. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Matt Moscona for hopping on board to talk a little bit about the spring game. Yes, the scoring was unbelievably confusing, and if you listen to the radio broadcast of the game, Gordy Rush, Doug Morrow, and Jacob Hester could not make heads nor tails of it. They just followed it along as it went, and it was fun. It's such a fun event. You heard at the end of the interview there, Moscona snuck in and said I was fired. The backstory on that, I used to produce a show, and there wasn't a week that would go by that I wasn't fired a minimum of 2 times. I make a mistake, I'm fired. He fired me more than Spacely fired George Jetson. Like, that's the long and the short of it. Really doesn't do a whole lot for his powers of firing. But that's neither here nor there. I always appreciate Moscona's time. Love having him on to talk a little bit of football. I wish we could have kept him over for this segment to talk Pelicans, right? A little bit of hype right now, a little bit of heat coming out of the blender as they're now 2-2. Well, the series is tied up at 2. Couple of news notes to cover before we get out of here. Number one, the first of a series of public meetings about the new bridge this evening, 5 to 7 p.m., Bluebonnet Regional Branch Library, the Bluebonnet Library, to have a meeting about the new Mississippi River Bridge location. That'll be going on tonight. There's going to be meetings going on all week long. Number two, I did not want the show to go by from start to finish without at least noting a national hero from Louisiana, Johnny Jones, not the former basketball coach. A national hero from Louisiana, Johnny Jones, passed away Saturday. He was 102 years old. The pastor and congregation of Mount Zion First Baptist Church remembered the civil rights attorney who was a war hero. They remembered him on Sunday saying, quote, I was in disbelief. I just read a note from him. Mount Zion Reverend Renee Brown said, for him to take what he learned in the law and then use that to make things better for his people, I can't imagine how blessed he was. Johnny Jones, World War II hero and Baton Rouge native, 102 years old. Jones was awarded the Purple Heart in June of 2021 after fighting through several injuries in the D-Day invasion. Better late than never, I guess. My word. You fight in D-Day, you win your Purple Heart in 2021? Unreal. All right, we got to get out of here. Hey, as the week wears on and we grow closer to Garth Brooks, in chronologically, not emotionally, but as the week wears on and we grow closer to the Garth Brooks concert nears, we will have a lot more information for you. I want to tackle this from every possible angle under the sun. What's the tourism impact? How many hotel rooms are going to be available? How many hotel rooms are gone? What are restaurants going to look like on Friday night? What are restaurants going to look like on Saturday night after the show? What else is going on in town that is going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs because 400,000 people are going to be in Tiger Stadium? Let's talk about Garth Brooks as the hype grows and the concert nears. In the meanwhile, we got to get out of here. We have got the Fox News Rundown coming your way, followed by Brian Kilmeade. Ooh, Dirty Job, formerly Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe, going to be on with Kilmeade today. Dave Ramsey coming your way from 1 to 4. And, of course, Jay's got a guest host in today that Chuck P. will be driving you home from 4 to 6 this afternoon. That's going to do it for me. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. All right, YouTube, I got to skedaddle. We will see you tomorrow. Later.